Hey guys, couple quick disclaimers before we get into the episode. First of all, you may have noticed this episode is very long. It's our longest ever. It actually also was longer, and I have put a director's cut with our additional tangents on the Patreon. So that's $1 a month. There's a link in the description if you're interested in that. Also, I misspoke at the beginning of this episode. When I introduced our guest, I said that she is an Emmy nominee. She is actually an Emmy winner. So I want to make sure I just get the record straight on that. All right, enjoy the episode. Welcome to Interior Analysis. I'm Evan Westman.
I'm Jelani T. Kelly.
I'm Rachel Michele.
And today we're going to be doing an episode on trailers. And we're joined by Jocelyn Tarquini, an Emmy-nominated editor. I'll run through your credits in a sec, but Jocelyn teaches or at least has taught the trailer class. Do you still do that at Drexel? Okay.
Yeah, I'm the only one.
Okay, I figured it was still going, but I haven't checked in a couple of years, so. She has a lot of experience editing trailers, which is why I asked her to be on here for this. Credits include, but are not at all limited to, When Sharks Attack and Why, Super Animals, The Godfather of Fentanyl, and Weird But True, which is where your Emmy came from, as you were telling us just before. She's edited trailers such as The Aviator, Spider-Man 2, March of the Penguins, and Spirited Away. The list is longer from what you were telling me before. I've taken your trailer editing class. I audited your trailer editing class.
I was going to say, how did you do? I don't remember.
So I was in what was it? Advanced editing, doing the makeover during at the same time, and I think I did like a week of both, and then I realized that there's no way I can swing both of these classes, but I really wanted to take it.
I do remember this, yeah.
Yeah, because the makeover was enough to deal with. No, but I did attend all of the classes, and you had kind of like a structure that you went over, so I guess I just wanted to start off with, how do you teach trailer editing, and like how have you approached it in your professional work?
In my professional work, it was so early on in my career that I didn't genuinely like cue into editing of trailers and like what the structure was, and that there was like a very kind of a finite way to do it until long after I was out of trailers. So I was in the early 2000s was when I was cutting trailers, and it was a kind of a different world at that point. That said, when I started teaching it, I had to kind of really dig into, is there a structure that I could ultimately show to students, story-wise, and how it kind of ebbs and flows. The way that I teach it is very different from the way that I did it. It was such a different world then, especially from like a music and sound effects stance and a graphic stance. My teaching structure is very different from how I had to do it. The way that I teach it and the way that I approach it now is I start with teaching the structure, which is the roller coaster, the format of all trailers, that when you break them down, they all have this format. And then from there, a big focus for trailers for me now is within the story that students are ultimately going to be trying to tell is, what are our kind of moral obligations? What are our kind of fan obligations? Who is your audience? And kind of approaching it from that stance. So it's not just about, getting the structure out, but who are you ultimately trying to tell the story to? That kind of then defines the focus of which way they're going to go with it.
I definitely want to dig into the who are you making it for question. Because I think so to cue the audience in, I had all of us bring 3 to 5 trailers as examples for all of us to watch, and I'll try to link to those if I can so that listeners can watch them too. But I think that question definitely comes up in a few of the examples that some of us picked. Do you have any specific experiences with like how you approached the trailers you worked on that you wanted to go into, or like that were like enlightening experiences, or like shaped how you view this as an art form, if we want to call it that?
I was really fortunate in that when I cut trailers, this was before the age of YouTube being a thing. And so these weren't like fan made trailers. I was actually earning an income doing it. And because of that, it was Trailer Park is the company that I was working for. At the time when I got hired, they were actually called Creative Domain. And they were a smaller trailer house. And Trailer Park was another trailer house kind of like down the street. And they merged in the first year that I was there and just became Trailer Park. And now they're this gigantic international company. But because of that, we had the 5th floor was us. It was like post and editorial and producers. And then the 6th floor was all graphics and like poster art and like billboards and stuff like that. So when I would go in on a trailer, when they would assign me something, I would have a producer that I was working with. And they would have gone through all of the show or all of the movie and basically designed the trailer based on like just on a script. So it'd be like, if it was Spider-Man, it would be labeled like the Fly High campaign or the, Web campaign. They would come up with like a catchphrase and then they would base the script on that. Our assistants would go in and they would paper cut the entire thing and then hand it off. And we would spend, as editors, we'd spend sometimes weeks devouring the material and pulling our stuff. And then we would combine that with what the producers had also asked for and kind of tagged. And then once we had like a rough cut ready to go, the producers and I would sit down and we would adjust from there. And then ultimately send it off to the network or the executives, whoever was going to ultimately approve it. The Spider-Man 2 campaign was just such a massive undertaking because it was the biggest film of that year. And there was so much riding on it. And it was months and months of nonstop Spider-Man. Like, I didn't watch Spider-Man 2 again until... I still haven't watched it. Even when my son watched it, I like left the room. I was just like, I cannot watch this again. And then there were other ones like March of the Penguins, for instance, where it was much quicker. I couldn't look at penguins for a while, and Morgan Freeman's voice kind of like made my skin crawl for about a decade. I'm good now. I love his voice, but it was like having to listen to it over and over and over again. As far as like one that kind of shaped me, it was definitely Spirited Away. I mean, I have to have seen that film 100 times and I could still sit and watch it like I'm a little kid again, just because it still slaps. It's just really, really good. And trying to do that trailer though was really difficult. It is not a good trailer. It's just not. I look at it now and I'm like, oh, I did that. That was me. But we were trying to take Miyazaki and dealing with these incredibly complex, stolen identities, sex slavery, kidnapping, sexual misconduct. Like there's all of these undertones in that movie. And we had to slap a Disney label on it because it was the first release that Disney was releasing from Studio Ghibli after they had purchased it and started funding it. It was like the beginning of it was not the beginning, but it was in the beginning of their empire building where they just own everything. And they were like, oh yeah, it's a movie about a little girl who gets lost and there's a dragon and a dude. It's going to be fine.
Which is
and
not
like, we can
really
make
what
that
that
Disney.
movie is.
And then you're literally dealing with Miyazaki and he's like, yeah, that's not what this movie is about at all. And so it's like, how do you show some of that and get it across to audiences? Like this is classic Miyazaki. This is amazing Studio Ghibli. It just happens to be owned by the mouse. That was a huge struggle, and I definitely would not cut it the same way today that I did then, or that I was kind of forced to do. Because we never have final cut. The executives and the studio ultimately do.
Do you feel like you still had a decent amount of like creative freedom doing that though? Within those processes.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, for the first, like especially for the first edits, even working with the producer, like we would always, I worked with different producers on different campaigns, but we would always sit down and kind of just spitball what are the ideas, and then they would go into their little corner and they would do their writing, and I would go into my corner and do just devour all the material and pull stuff. But even after they gave me the paper cut to work with, I had a ton of leeway in the middle of that to put what I wanted and to kind of put my style and my stamp on it. If you do a good job, ultimately, it doesn't change all that much. There were a lot of trailers that we were able to get through and get by because we knocked it out of the park with the rough cut. And there were ones that we went through months and months of revisions on because the studio just wasn't happy and they didn't know how to express what they needed changed. It was definitely a give and take depending on the project.
Okay. Yeah, and feel free to dip into your experience, like talking more about it throughout, Jocelyn. Like I don't want to limit that to this space. I have just a little bit of experience working on trailers that I wanted to throw in here. Part of why I thought to do this episode was a couple years ago I was working on the one movie I've worked on, Hayride to Hell, and I didn't have you guys watch the trailer for that, but it is out there on YouTube.
Saving for later.
Saving for later, yeah.
It sounds It sounds like a lot of fun.
It's available as of recently, but it took a long time to put them out. But it's out now. In working on that trailer, I definitely had a little bit of exhaustion. It sounds like you had it significantly worse working in terms of like not being able to hear Morgan Freeman's voice. I don't think I had anything that severe from working on mine, but I know there were several versions that we went through. My initial pitch was there's like a poem that a character reads midway through that movie that basically runs through like all the main characters and ends with I dare you to take the hayride to hell. And I was like, I just want to structure the whole trailer around this poem, and I still think that would have been a cool way to do it. Ultimately, the director said, let's make this a little more traditional. It definitely followed in the way that you taught us to do it in class, Jocelyn. And I think ultimately he was correct. We had like two kind of stars in that, Bill Moseley and Kane Hodder. And the director essentially told me, like, spotlight these
Jason
two.
Kane Hodder?
Jason Kane Hodder, yeah.
I would have had no idea. I don't do scary movies at all. So, but as soon as you said Jason, I was like, wait, are we Jason Kelsey? Like, I thought you were going with like a actual name person for
No, like
the
Jason,
layman
Jason,
term,
yeah.
Jason. But no, Jason, like
Yeah.
that guy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No,
he's very much not playing a Jason type role in it. He was like our big name, and he basically told me, the director said, like, get us every single scene where the two of them are like having any kind of dialogue exchange. If they're in a shot together, like, use all of that. These guys are our selling points. I still think I never ended up making like the full version of the trailer I pitched. Ultimately, like, all the response I've seen from the final movie and the trailer is everyone's like so amped to see these two in the movie. So I think he absolutely had the right instinct on that. But that was kind of like my one experience with it. That's part of why I wanted to talk about this as a whole concept, because I think trailers are very interesting. Basically, this episode, the rest of it is just going to be, I have 4 questions that I'm going to have us run through roundtable style. For longtime fans, this will go a lot like our MPA rating system episode. Hopefully shorter, because that was a really long but really good episode. But the first question is, how do you engage with trailers? Jelani, let's start with you on that.
What do you mean by engage? Because I just watched them. I don't know if that's what you meant.
What I mean by how do you engage with trailers is, like, day to day, like, do you, like, go out of your way to watch them? Do you only see them in theaters? Like, how do they come up in day-to-day life?
Normally they're sent to me. Sometimes, oddly enough, I don't ever use the YouTube recommended. But sometimes they show up in that, and I'm like, oh, this trailer's out. Cool. I'll watch that. That's usually, or I'm on Reddit a lot. I just lurk on Reddit, and they're there as well. So I'll just, like, add it to my watch later and watch it later. Like, I just saw the Invincible Season 3 trailer for that, and I think that was sent to me. That's usually how I go about that. And then sometimes I'll see them in theaters. I don't go to the theaters as often as I used to, but some of them are just, like, bad. Like, some stick with me. Like, there was one for a movie called Plane.
Oh, I think I've seen that.
And I was like, I the trailer for it was just so not great in my opinion. And then the name of the movie is, like, after all of that, you sit through 2.5 minutes, however long, and the name of the movie is just Plane. Like, you couldn't do any better than that. But yeah, that's usually how I go about it. And then trailers I really like for things I'm really hyped for, I'll watch multiple times. Like, I will watch at least once a day leading up to the release. For example, the God of War Ragnarok trailer, the video game, there was one section in it where the main character is clashing with Thor, the God of Thunder, and I rewatched that so many times before the game released. But more on topic, Infinity War and Endgame, I think, are my most watched trailers leading up to a movie, like, ever.
All right, Angel, how do you engage with trailers?
I feel like I'm a little more into trailers than maybe Jelani is. Like, I have a lot of like trailer channels on YouTube that I follow, so I get alerts about like a new one like every single day, sometimes the same one multiple times, and I tend to watch them a lot. Like, sometimes like I get so into them that I'll listen to them almost like music, like while I'm walking around or like when I'm working out, something like that, like especially action movie stuff, superhero stuff, stuff like that.
I'll rip music from the trailers.
Trailer Music Weekly. Love
So
that
good.
channel. Woo! I love that channel. Just the music is so good.
Yeah, trailers, music, movies, and TV are where I get like most of my Spotify playlist from. Because like they just like it engages you with the song so much more when you have something to associate it with. And so you'll get like, a really good teaser trailer comes out, and then it's like, oh, I've never heard this song, or I won't even realize that a remix of Creep is in the Social Network trailer, something like that. And then I'll realize that I'm like, oh, that's great, and I'll listen to that cover over and over again. I also probably tend to watch a lot of them like over and over again. Like, I think Invincible I've recently seen a bunch of times. I've been doing the Severance trailer a lot because the season 2 trailer for that just came out. Like, it gets to the point where like I will start to like ruin the movie for myself a little bit, or the show or whatever, because like I'll be analyzing it so much that I'll pick up on things like on the 15th watch that I didn't the first time, and then I'm like, oh, wait a second, I think I figured this out, and a couple times it's like definitely happened. So yeah, I tend to sort of get really into them and kind of go over them over and over again until the point where I'm like, okay, I could take a break from this and just like wait for the actual movie, because it's been like a couple of weeks of me just listening to this thing over and over again. Yeah, that's pretty much how I go about it.
And Jocelyn, how about you?
I mean, it really depends on if I'm engaging in like from a teaching standpoint, or I definitely got like 30 text messages within 5 minutes of the How to Train Your Dragon live action dropping. Like, once, because I love that animated film so much. Like, I adore that series, and students know it. So I had alumni, I had students, literally my phone like exploded. It was like massive news had come out, and I'm like, oh my God, what's happening in the world? Oh, How to Train Your Dragon. And then I watched it and I was like, oh. And then I watched it again and again and again. And then we watched it in class and we ripped it apart. I do get a lot of text messages from students and from alumni who just know that I love something a lot, and they'll send me something that they think is good or bad. I try to steer clear of Reddit, and because I definitely will go down that hole, and even YouTube. Like, if I'm on YouTube for something and something pops up and I like an actor that's in it per se, like I might watch it. And if it's something like a movie that I've been really looking forward to, I will always watch it. Like, I will kind of seek it out. I also don't get to the theater very often just because it's so damn expensive, and having a 6-year-old, it turns into like $100 outing because I have to get a babysitter and everything else. So I don't see a lot of trailers in the theater anymore. Also, the fact that theaters now are playing 40 minutes of commercials for like,
it's a lot.
And it's not even for like the soda and popcorn. It's for like hotels.com in front of a movie, that by the time you get to the 20 minutes of trailers, you're so burnt out and you just want the damn movie to start. Which I was the kid, man, like my mom would try to fast forward on the VHS, and I was like, no, we have to watch the previews. My mom's like, that movie came out 10 years ago. And I was like, I know, but it's so good. Like, I loved trailers as a kid. And now, and even when I go to theaters, we were never late because I wanted to watch every trailer in the theaters. And now I literally will show up to my movie, especially at my local theater, because I know they do like 30 to 40 minutes of crap before the movie will start. I'll show up 20 minutes after the showtime, because then I know at least I won't have to say to my daughter, it's going to start in like 10 more minutes. And I also don't have to tell myself like, okay, 10 more minutes, like, don't get up, it's going to start soon. So I feel like YouTube kind of killed the trailer in as far as theaters go. So I don't engage that way very often anymore. And now that you can just have everything sent to you, it's, and you can watch it on your phone. You don't have to rent a movie. You don't have to seek it out anymore. It's literally thrown at you. And so that's kind of how I engage. Is kind of the same as Jelani. It's, there's definitely stuff that I'll watch over and over again. And a lot of times, if I'm doing it from a teaching standpoint, it is to rip it apart and to show students like, oh, hey, yeah, you thought that, they're showing you Kylo Ren killing his mama. What do we know he's not going to do in the movie? Kill his mama. And so and looking at those trailers and kind of like breaking them down when I rewatch them, it's to basically figure out not the spoilers per se, but why they're leading us in a certain direction to try to get us not to look over there where they don't want us to, because they don't want to give it away. So I try to always enjoy a trailer for the first time and not analyze it, but then I usually go into analytic mode.
I definitely want to get into the misleading thing in some of the other questions, because I think that's a big factor.
Yeah.
For my answer, I definitely resonate with a lot of what you guys have said. I sometimes still am pretty bad about rewatching. I used to be much worse about it. Like anything I was excited for in high school, I would rewatch the trailers all the time. And then I think I just got burned too many times by like either spoiling it for myself or being disappointed by the final product, or I guess different things like that. These days I tend to do, if it's something that I am excited for, like any Dune or like Spider-Verse stuff that's come out, I will watch the teaser and then really try to avoid the main stuff. Like when I go to the theater, typically I don't put in my headphones and close my eyes. I always have them ready, just in case. I definitely did that. Like I don't know exactly when, but I'm sure any post-teaser Spider-Verse trailer, I was like, nope, I want to see nothing. I want to go in as blind as possible. I'm probably going to do the same thing for Mission Impossible 8 this year.
Oh my God, the teaser is so bad.
Okay, we'll get into that, because I'm surprised that you have that as marked as a bad example. I have no
terrible example.
I have no notes.
Oh,
I want to hear you talk about it, because I have no notes on that trailer.
Terrible teaser. It's awful.
For now, I disagree. Maybe I won't by the end of this. Yeah, that's most of it.
She's the expert, buddy.
Yeah, but you can't fully argue with the fan in me. Tom Cruise is running real good.
That's true. That is like a valid point. Is like when you have a fan who's like deep diving into something, that's a whole different audience, and you're either gonna piss them off to no end, or you could literally like put a pile of shit in front of them and go, oh, "It's the new movie," and they'd be like, "Oh, it's the new movie. It's incredible." And
you might be very right that it's bad. It still gets me hyped.
It does depend on, is it a true, like, are you like a psycho fan who's gonna like go nuts over every mistake, or are you the psycho fan who's like, they could literally just shit on it and I'm still gonna go see it like 4 times in the theater because I love it that much. It's across the board.
I definitely want to hear the hear the breakdown. I find that like I don't seek out trailers that much. It's definitely not part of my decision making too much anymore. I've been burned by enough that like if I see a good trailer, I'm like, okay, that's a good trailer and that's it. I'm not gonna try to like I really try to not have that taint my expectations of the final thing, but it's kind of impossible not to. But I try to be careful with it and go in. If I can go into something blind, I do try to do that and look for like other things to get me interested in stuff, like mostly who's attached to it. I do really love them as an art form, though. I don't know if we'll talk about this much, but I really love style trailers, which, Jocelyn, you brought one of those as an example, where like you take the style or a song that isn't associated with the movie that you're cutting a trailer for. I actually did that for class. I did an Inception trailer in the style of the Dune teaser that had just come out at the time. That's the only time I've done it, but there's a ton of examples of stuff like that that is really great. There's so many good Infinity War style trailers. I don't know if we'll be talking about those, but I really love that as like a way to make it like a fully artistic version of a trailer and like no marketing involved. So let's go to the next one. I guess we'll just stick with the same order. What qualities or elements of trailers do you like? And to kind of add on to that, what makes you most interested in seeing the full movie? So Jelani, we'll start with you again.
Number one, we've already kind of talked about it. Great music. A lot of times, if the music goes hard enough, I might not even see the movie. I'll just do like a YouTube to MP3 and download the music straight from the trailer and add that to like my iTunes playlist. Bonus points if the music is like synced up to scenes or beats in the trailer. I have, for example, out of the 5 I have listed, 3 out of the 5 of them are in my playlist: the Wakanda Forever teaser, Man of Steel trailer 2, and Avengers Endgame.
Man of Steel is one of the most spectacular trailer campaign movie disappointments of all time.
Yes.
Because those trailers, when a student's like, I'm gonna do Man of Steel, I'm like, why? Like, why are you even trying to make a trailer for this? Because you're not gonna make anything that even comes close to how good their trailer campaign was. And the sheer disappointment of that movie and experiencing it with like 30 students. We had gotten early access to it through a media group. We saw it like 2 weeks before it came out. The entire theater is filled with my students. Man, the energy was insane because of those trailers. And at the end of the movie, students are literally throwing shit in the theater. And I'm like, you guys are adults. But I understand. Like, because it just was such a shitty movie. And yet the trailer campaign, the score, everything.
Hans Zimmer, bro.
Hans Zimmer,
Yeah,
Kevin Costner, Russell Crowe. Their voices, like... I was just like, Superman, the dumbest superhero next to Hawkeye of all time. And yet I couldn't wait to go see it because of those trailers. Like, and a huge part of it is the music. It's just, you feel all the things. You're like, what? Am I crying? Like,
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Superman, he's going to take off. And you're like, why do I feel that? It's the music. It's so good.
Yeah, the transition, sorry, just to like shout out that, because I love that trailer too. The transition from, is it Elegy into the like score?
It's Elegy, and then the other one is Into the Storm, but I just titled my version of Elegy Into the Storm, so yeah.
Yeah, they like transition that right on the shot of like his fist and knee on the ground as he's about to take off, like,
and then
you
it's like,
can't beat
boom.
that. It's so good.
So good. So bad movie-wise, though, man. Like, such a disappointment.
The fan in me is same with Evan and Mission Impossible. I accept the movie and everybody's else's views on how bad it is, but I have a personal soft spot for it.
Oh, I mean, I love Mission Impossible, and the music is really good in that trailer.
Yeah, Lorne Balfe's version of the score.
He's
good.
Amazing. He's an incredible composer.
Is that the one where it was playing the theme? I didn't realize it was playing the theme until the end of it, like the very end of the trailer.
It was kind of building into it. It was like a variation on the theme.
So yeah, great music. That's like my number one element. Great shots is number 2. Like we just mentioned with the Man of Steel one, his fist on the ground before he starts taking off. I'm thinking of also just great moments from the trailer. Like, I have bad quotes as one of my, like, bad things for trailers. But, like, in the Mortal Kombat trailer, I picked when Scorpion says, "Get over here." It's muffled, but when he says, "Get over here," or when Sub-Zero, like, cuts him and then freezes his blood and then stabs him, I was just like, that is so stupidly cool. That is something they would put in a game. Another great shot, the ending of the Batman trailer with it upside down, and he's walking with the fire, the explosion behind him, and the music's blaring at that point. I was just like, yeah. I don't even like Batman as a superhero. I'd never have. But, surprise, surprise, I put him on another list. The Wakanda Forever teaser trailer. Just especially, I think the mural shot is in this with Chadwick both. Like, how can
I
you
cried.
not?
Hmm.
I cried, man. That played in a theater. It was the first time I
I was
saw it. It was,
dying.
I don't
Oh my
remember what
god.
movie, but it kicked on. I was there with my mother, and literally when we were driving home, we weren't talking about the movie that we had gone to see. We were talking about that trailer. And I was literally crying in the car. I was like, it's the funeral scene, and oh my god, the king is dead. Like, I lost it because I'll never forget where I was when I found out Chadwick Boseman had passed away. And it was such a traumatic thing, and the way they played that whole funeral thing with the mural at the beginning.
It's
The
like a
movie-
The
eulogy.
movie is
Yeah.
questionable. I enjoyed it. Went to go see it. I gave it a lot of grace. They had tons of hurdles to jump.
Yeah.
But man, their first trailer, oh, probably one of the best like Marvel trailers of all time. It was beautifully handled.
Yeah. And then the build into Namor, and then there was the shot of him, like, his back, the shot of his back, and he's looking up at the beach, and it transitions into him as an adult. Like, that was dope. And I remember in the theater, like, I knew, like, the dancing and the mural, like, all of the funeral stuff would be at the intro to the movie. And I was just tense the whole time. And then my brother, like, pats me on my arm, and I'm like, you really try to make me cry. I was already on the verge, but I don't have anything else listed, but just memorable things, memorable shots from the movie. Obviously, try your best not to spoil it, but, or they should try their best not to spoil it, but there are dope shots that can be used and are used in a lot of trailers. Make me personally hype enough to see them. So great music, great shots. That's really it. That's all that it takes to get me to and it obviously normally it's a property I'm already excited for or attached to, like any Marvel DC stuff. I'm excited for Superman next year. Whenever Gunn decides to drop a trailer of that. There's also a lot of shows, animated shows, and like video games I'm into as well that I'll watch trailers for repeatedly.
Okay, Angel, why don't you take that?
I'm probably in a similar vein to Jelani. Like, I think that the biggest selling points for me are definitely like good music and good shots, and they're best when they're synced up. Honestly, like, it's almost like with certain action movies, especially, I like when it's almost like the trailer itself is like a music video. Like, that's why I love Fast and Furious trailers so much. That's why I kind of love like the latest like Mission Impossible trailers a lot too. Like Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, like they've got really, really good like music choices and action editing, things like that. They're really good at like selling you on like the feeling. Like I get goosebumps still watching Mission Impossible Fallout trailer. Like, and I've seen it a billion times, and I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm not there in the series yet, but that's definitely one of the things that I love most. I've also kind of started to avoid certain later trailers because of the whole spoiler aspect of it. So I like when I know that a trailer is going to give you that same feeling without basically telling you what the entire movie is. Like the one that I always come back to is not the original Force Awakens teasers, but the only like full trailer that they released. And I think it was mentioned in like a Patrick H. Williams video a few years ago where he was talking about how like they use music to weaponize nostalgia with Star Wars properties. And essentially like the whole thing is like the music swelling and the imagery of like the Millennium Falcon and like Han Solo and like, you know, lightsabers and like imagery you're familiar with, but also like how they're twisting it into something new. And it's just one of those things, like, even watching it now, I still get excited about a movie I've seen like 25 times. And you can also tell it's so perfectly cut together that they're calling back to things you know, but they're not telling you what the movie's about. Like, they're really not. They're doing such a good job with that. Another example of that I found is the movie Widows, which is a Steve McQueen movie that came out a few years ago. Honestly, what sold that for me was just the trailer. Like, I'd seen the trailer a million times. I only just watched the movie, like, this year. But you really, like, that also, like, it kind of gives you, like, a vague impression of what the plot's going to be about, but it doesn't give you even a hint at, like, you know, the skill that was put into editing it or the performances or, you know, how everything fits together. It just kind of gives you, like, the atmosphere of it. And that's what's really a great selling point as far as trailers for me. Like, you can't tell me step by step every bit of the movie and then expect me to go see the movie. And if you're even a little bit familiar with movie structure, you'll know which ones do that and which ones don't. And this is also why I like teaser trailers more. You get a good either like music choice that you wouldn't expect to fit that suddenly does, or a really good cover of something else that is like either a new cover or one that not too many people are familiar with, so it kind of catches you off guard. So like I brought up before, Social Network does that with Creep in like a really good way. One of my favorites is Last Night in Soho.
Oh, Us does it. I think Us does
Yeah,
it.
Us had a great one with I
Got
Got
Fired
Fired on
Did,
it.
yes. Yeah.
Another one, it definitely fits perfectly, but is like a bizarre cover that you just didn't see coming. And I'm going to totally say this. 50 Shades of Grey. Crazy in Love, total remix by Beyonce. The worst movie of all time. But man,
yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
When that kicks in, you're just like, oh shit, that is the sexiest thing I've ever seen. I'm gonna go see it. Ooh, there's a red room. You're literally like, you're not even in your mommy age, but you're like, I'm gonna go see that movie because they have remixed Crazy in Love, and it slaps so perfectly that it's the sheer number of people that went to go see that movie just for that song, which they didn't even release. Like, you had to go on and rip it yourself off of YouTube to hear it because they never released that specific version that it was only for the trailer. So it's another one that's just...
I would love to hear the process of how they came up with that. Because, like, I know the song you're talking about. How do you even come up with that? It's so perfect.
You have over $1 million for licensing, and you just go to beyond. You have what's going to be the biggest romantic movie of the year that you're releasing on Valentine's Day, even though it's about a toxic relationship, a very toxic, dangerous, abusive relationship. But, you know, there's some gentle spanking and some, you know, gaslighting and some other things that apparently women just desire deeply on Valentine's Day. And every woman over 40 had read that series. And a huge part of it was the remixing of that song, and all of the good conservative Christian women out there who in their dirty book club were reading and wanted to go see it. So it was like they were sitting in a room and they were like, we have the biggest movie of the year, like romantically, and we've got to get everyone in that theater on week one because word is going to spread after that opening weekend how bad this movie is, and then nobody will go see it. So they had to like blow the roof off opening weekend, which they did. And then for the second and third movie, I think there were three.
There's three.
I think there's three. Yeah,
well,
there's
like
three.
3 books, I think, right? I don't know.
There are.
There's definitely
yes,
3
there
of
are.
each.
Yes, I can confirm there are 3 books.
Oh no, there's 4. Because didn't they write one about him or something? Like they pulled the Twilight Midnight something.
We don't include the offshoots. There are 3 original, as far as I know.
Oh, okay.
I can confirm that. But nobody went to go see the second and the third one. Like they were like in the theater for a week and a half, and then they went straight to rental because everybody knew they were going to be so bad. But they had a huge budget and they were marketing the shit out of that movie. So they went to Beyonce and were like, hey, you want to remix your song, your like number 1 hit for us for this? And she was like, yeah, how much money do you have? And they were like, here's the money. And she was like, okay, yeah, I'll remix. I'll do anything for that much money. But you're talking millions of dollars to license that song.
But I mean,
well worth it.
And they knew it was going to be, because the fact is, like, that book made a shit ton of money.
It did. The first one made a ton of money. And thank God, because the second and third did not.
No. I mean,
I definitely took my mother to see all 3 in the theaters. The music choices are so essential. But the kicker is that a lot of times those music choices are not in the actual film.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're usually not.
They're not. And it's like you get a Transformers or a Michael Bay film. He always uses his scores because his scores are usually, they strangely work.
They're pretty good.
And you have like Star Wars and stuff like that. And you know what? Like, I agree with you in the sense of like it evokes like these reactions from people. My ex-husband, when he saw A Force Awakens, I begrudgingly went to go see the movie because I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I'm not a big Star Trek fan either. But I had faith in what J.J. Abrams was going to do. So we all went to go see it on Christmas Day. And he literally was crying because it was like his childhood was the original Star Wars. It was my childhood too, but my childhood was realizing that there was no one in that movie that in the original movies that I could relate to. There was no female character who did anything, may Carrie Fisher rest in peace, never did anything but wear a bikini and look sexy and shoot a gun like 6 times. She was a glorified Bond girl. And then when A Force Awakens came out, the trailer is so good because it brings out what all the nerds out there were like, Star Wars, and you guys were so excited for it. But for little girls everywhere, we were like, fuck yeah, we've got a girl in town. And like, I'm going to say it, for minorities, we were like, we have a Jedi. Like, yeah, like minorities had Samuel L. Jackson, but he was CGI half the time. You know, like didn't, what A Force Awakens did and what they did beautifully in the trailer is showcase, we've got a Hispanic of some nature, not quite sure what Poe was. We've got a black stormtrooper who's not going to stay a stormtrooper and is going to probably become a Jedi. We've got Kylo Ren, who clearly got daddy issues, and we've got Rey. And they literally set it up for an entire, like they finally realized, oh, by the way, we're advertising to 51% of the population in the world. If we can get even 5% of those women who would not normally buy a ticket to go see this because they had nothing to actually look at other than like Han Solo, who's kind of hot, and had nothing to relate to. If we can get them over to the dark side, no pun intended there, holy crap, our earnings are going to explode. And so with A Force Awakens, they did a beautiful thing of like bringing in a new audience and also maintaining the love that the original audience had. Of course, until the movie was made, and then everybody shat on it, except for the new audience. The new, like, I don't know a single female who wasn't a real big Star Wars fan in the beginning. Like, I respect them for what they are. I think they're absolutely groundbreaking, incredible movies. But I don't want to sit there and show them to my daughter. I really, like, it doesn't show any kind of thing that she can relate to. But A Force Awakens, we've watched like a bazillion times because they brought in a whole new audience.
I think that's a really good point about how and I think, Angel, you mentioned the Patrick Willems video about those trailers. I think he brings that up in that how like every shot,
because he made a lot of Star Wars ones about like that kind of like style of creating that they're going into now, where they're really banking on the nostalgia factor, especially with the music.
Well, I think what he talks about, I don't want to paraphrase it too badly, but it's a Star Wars thing you're familiar with, but in a context you're not familiar with, and the music was part of that. I think a lot of legacy sequel trailers, or just like trailers that are associated with an existing property, have taken a lot of notes from the Star Wars trailers. Like, even a recent example, the Wicked trailer recently, like, did that super hard with the Defying Gravity cover. They had like the big orchestral version. I think they took notes from Force Awakens.
But they alienated the shit out of non-Wicked fans. I can tell you, like, because I literally just taught a trailer class, and I asked students to like share trailers that they wanted to talk about. And I had like 10 students in the same week. They were like, let's watch the Wicked trailers. And as somebody who doesn't give two craps about The Wizard of Oz, and just, I was so fried on it as a kid, and I genuinely couldn't even remember the plot points. I forgot that like somebody was going to get melted by water. Like, that's how little I care. Then watching the Wicked trailer, not knowing anything about it other than it was a Broadway show, I had serious issues with the trailer because I was like, you're very much playing to your fans and not to the non-fans who, fans are going to go see it. That's a guaranteed seat. But it's tapping into that, even a tiny percent of the people that would probably not go see it unless you advertise it really well. And I thought the Wicked trailers were terrible. They were long, I mean, much like the movie, but they were long-winded. They didn't tell me anything. Did I go see it in the theater multiple times? Yes, I did. I saw it once by myself and I was blown away by it. I was like, okay, that was shockingly good. And then I literally just got home today. I took my daughter to go see it. And I was shocked at how good it was and how into the soundtrack I am now. But from trying to convince me to go see it, the only reason I saw it initially is because I had a student in class who was like, he and I definitely vibe as far as like what we enjoy. Like we never disagree. We always like the same stuff for the same reasons. He was like, I think you should go see the movie. And the movie hadn't even come out yet. He's like, I saw the stage show, and he's like, story-wise, you're going to love it. And I was like, yeah, but the trailers suck. And then I got a free ticket from Regal, so I went to go see it. And that is the only reason why I went to go see it initially, because the trailers didn't do it for me, because they were only playing to their audience.
What do you think they should have shown instead to like, or how do you think they, because I kind of agree that they were very much playing to their base. But what do you think they could have done to draw in, like, the outside their fan base people?
So the thing that I loved about the movie is why I literally went to go take my daughter to go see it, is it's very much that female kind of love story, that friendship, ride or die, finding that person in your life, whether they're romantic or not. And it's so good. The casting in that film is on point. It's absolutely perfect. And I'm not a big musical person. Unless I'm seeing it on Broadway, I'm not interested. I can't get through Les Mis. They sing about everything and it just annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Like if I'm seeing it on stage, it's a whole different ball game. Like live is a whole different thing. But man, it's hard for me to sit through. And I would have loved to have seen in those trailers for them to have played up that emotional thing. Because as far as like what draws me into a trailer, like the music is great, but it's trailer music. A lot of the time it's not from the film. So I don't count on that. It is the emotional story. It's like how we connect as humans to a character in the film. The examples like that I gave, my Avengers trailer is a fan-made trailer and it's remixed to Gangster's Paradise, which
great.
So good,
82,
by the way. Oh
as
my
an
God,
82 baby who was the white girl who could rap all of Gangster's Paradise by Coolio because it had Michelle Pfeiffer in it. And I was like, oh, I can do this. Like when I heard that remix, I was just like, oh shit. But what works about that trailer is not just the music. They perfectly explain the Infinity Stones. The entire trailer is setting up and explaining the Infinity Stones. And if you're not a nerd who is like a diehard into the comic books and you haven't watched all the movies in order and all their offshoots, kind of got confused on who the hell Thanos was, who he was related to, who he wasn't related to. And you can only dive into like Reddit and Wikipedia and have somebody nerd-splain it over and over again so much. And having in a 3-minute like chunk explain the Infinity Stones and how they will lead to all of this destruction. And then slap Gangster's Paradise on it and also have like the killer pacing, like the pacing when you talk about cutting to the music. I mean, right down to like a sword slash is hitting perfectly on the music. And then you have like the sound effects in the background kind of as like a ghost thing in the back. It's such a beautifully made trailer. But a huge part of it is the engagement of the characters, especially when they start chanting. If I get emotional when I'm watching a trailer, they have done their job. An emotion could be straight up anger, or it could be like me crying. I definitely cry at trailers. I don't cry at much in the world. I cry over my kids. I cry over a good movie, a good book, a good song, or a good trailer. Like I will be the person in the theater like, this is so fucking embarrassing because I'm crying in a trailer, and I will then go see a movie just based on that. It's that emotional connection. And with Wicked, I would have loved to have seen them get me to connect to Galinda and Alfie before I even showed up. I went in knowing so little about that movie and just kind of let it wash over me. I think they were so busy playing to their base that they forgot that there's a whole other audience that they could bring in. And that's a lot of money. And the truth is, a trailer's sole purpose, it's not to serve the fans. It's not to serve anyone other than the bank. It is to get butts in seats, hopefully opening weekend, because if you have a good movie, then they'll see it multiple times. You have a shitty movie, they've at least seen it once. Trailer companies do not give a crap if you like the trailer. They just don't care. Their only purpose is to get your butt in the seat. It is all financial. And so that's why I also love when people freak out and they're like, oh, that trailer sucked. Like, I've been watching this since I was 2, and this is all the things they did wrong. The trailer, they don't care. They do not care. The fact that you're talking about it, you're going to have other people talking about it, and then you're all going to go see the movie just so you can rail on it a little bit more. Again, they don't care. You've already bought the ticket. The entire thing is advertising. So when it comes down to it, it's all just subliminal. And if they can attract you in from the heart of like, oh God, I hear that score. Like, I hear Jurassic Park and I literally start to cry. Like, that's my John Williams score, is Jurassic Park. Holy hell. And again, another one that they've definitely played on for all of the movies that came after it. But they don't care if you're happy about it. All they care about is, did you buy a ticket? And like with Wicked, they got me. Like, they got me. Like, granted, I saw it once for free, but I definitely bought popcorn. I definitely bought soda. And I definitely then took my daughter to go see it and bought soda and popcorn. But none of that was because of the trailer. That was just because I got kind of suckered in for free initially. But if a trailer can get that audience in early on, that's everything. It's like, it's the greatest deceit of all time. It's just getting your butt in the seat opening weekend, if they can.
I think the trailer of the ones that we brought that I think is the most guilty of playing to its base is the Mortal Kombat one that you brought, Jelani. I don't think I watched that. Maybe I did when it was coming out because you made us do it for the podcast, but I noticed the whole second half of that trailer is basically just playing the hits for Mortal Kombat. Like, the first half, you've got some story stuff. The second half is just everyone says their name and then get over here, finish him, one other thing. It's just like, yep, Mortal Kombat. We are doing a Mortal Kombat movie, guys. Look at all this Mortal Kombat stuff. You probably got nobody from that. You don't really know what the story is. That movie has no emotional core.
I don't know.
They don't pretend that it does.
My mom did not see Mortal Kombat. Did I? Maybe. But I also, again,
I did. I have
child
no
of the 80s.
Was it good?
And the
No.
90s. Oh, it was terrible.
I wouldn't have if Jelani
No, it
didn't
was not
make
very
me.
good. I remember it. I'm like,
Yeah.
this could have been so much better too.
It could have,
like the
yeah.
choices they make are so weird. And
I think it was-
you know what
it
says
was-
a
Look,
lot,
you're
too?
you're turning a crappy, like a great video game from a crappy video game era into a movie. It's never going to be good. That said, the remake of Lara Croft, when they recast the part with
Alicia Vikander.
yeah, the trailer for that was really good.
Oh, the Survivor
movie was
one?
bad.
Oh, I love
Oh,
that.
I have that
Use
in
as
my
an
playlist.
example. No,
I have
I've
that.
watched
That's a
that so
great
many
trailer.
times. I have that cover like on my Spotify.
It's a great
constantly,
cover.
just because like it's just
Yeah.
so good, and it works so well with the way they cut it into the trailer. Like, it made me think like, oh, this is gonna be great, and the movie was fine. I didn't
Movie was eh.
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but like, I mean, the trailer makes you think like, oh, this is Lara Croft. This is what it's gonna be.
Yeah. It's so hard to take something that is beloved by a gazillion people, especially in the video game world, and move it into this genre. If you can show me that there is going to be a human connection or it's going to be something that I can relate to, I will give you my money. Like, I will hand it over. Whether you are loyal to that IP or not, I will give you the money. It just seems to be a really hard thing for them to get across.
Well, I think part of it too, when it comes to video game adaptations specifically, and I think this is a huge problem, is what they're not getting is like, you have to balance the idea of getting the players that like the game on board and also getting that emotional human connection, because like, video games and movies or TV accomplish two different things. Like, what I initially I was iffy
And
on
as
the
a
last
non-gamer, I would beg to differ, because I had a student cut a trailer for instance, The Last of Us, the video game. And I'm watching his trailer and I was trying to give him notes and I was like, okay, I need you to back up. I kind of know who these characters are, but can you give me some background information? And the depth in which he could go back as like a massive fan of the game and like an avid gamer, the storytelling in games at times, I would actually argue, surpasses what we're doing in Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
Like
yes.
That first person engagement, it's very different from like Mario Brothers that I played, where you just run in a straight line and jump on mushrooms. You know, their storytelling is epic. And also, I have a student who graduated 3 years ago now. She went and got her grad degree in New Zealand, and she was doing her co-op, and she saw that there was a job for Weta, and she applied. She just hit apply. Like, she just put her name in. She was like, oh my God, if I could work for Weta, that'd be amazing. And then like 2 days before, she's doing her research to be prepared for the interview and realizes it's for a story producer position, but in their game department, not in their film department. And she literally walked in and was just like, okay, so I've played video games. I'm not a huge gamer, and I'm so sorry I've wasted your time. And they were like, well, actually, we hire a ton of story producers from the industry into gaming because that narrative is so important in every game that comes out now versus what it was even 10 years ago. 15 years ago, it was a very different beast. And she actually works for Weta now. After her internship, she ended up getting hired full time, and she's in their gaming department. And yet there's this huge crossover between their game department and their movie production department.
Jocelyn, I think you've gotten into your answers, or some of them, for what you like in trailers. Did you have other notes that you didn't go through?
No, I mean, it's when it really comes down to it, trailers only have so many elements like that really will bring people in. And it's why we've all said, you need a couple of good tentpole shots. We need to feel some emotional connection, and we need some really banging music. And we also need sound effects, which is why I'm going to rip the shit out of the Mission Impossible teaser. We're going to get into it.
Okay, so that's
because
why.
I'm excited.
It's a huge thing. Like sound effects are not the most vital part of anything. That said, when they're missing, they turn into the most vital thing that is missing, because it will make everything fall flat and empty. Good sound effects that are well mixed, like underneath things, and only come up when they really need to help further that story, it's a huge thing for me. So like when I hear something that's really well mixed and they've taken the time to really put the sound effects in, and going to my trailer days, we didn't have a lot of sound effects because we were working from the raw footage of films where nothing had been mixed. And if we wanted to add like a whoosh or a swoosh, we had to go and either find it on a pre-existing library where somebody was like whipping something around and recording it, or we didn't have anything at all. So like a lot of the trailers that I worked on, the sheer lack of sound effects and how empty those trailers feel, it's because there was no access to them. There was none. And ultimately, if it was a big budget thing like Spider-Man, we would send it to a mixer who would do a totally separate mix and add Foley just for that trailer. But if it was a lower budget thing, which like Spirited Away was a very low budget thing, even though it was Disney, it was Studio Ghibli. So we only were able to use sound effects that we had access to. And that's why you hear a lot of like cymbal rolls and like because that was all we had. And it was literally sometimes us in the edit room like and recording it and dropping it in and seeing if it lasted, because we didn't have the internet. Like we did, but we didn't. Like there was no YouTube where you could go on and be like, I need night crickets on the savannah outside of this tiny village ambience. And you can freaking find it. Literally somebody has been outside of that tiny village in Uganda and they've recorded the ambience of that specific place. You can find that on YouTube now. Whereas back in the day, you had to send somebody to the savannah to record it, and then you would always have somebody talking in the background. So you couldn't use it.
How would you feel about AI making it?
Oh, I don't care. I am not a person who is scared of AI or opposed to AI. because I know that AI, at least in my lifetime and most likely my children's lifetime, will never be able to make the human decisions that an actual person makes. And so there's always a place for me, basically. This is really just, it's self-centered. I will always have a job. You can teach a computer to play chess. I can teach a monkey how to edit with Avid and Premiere. My 6-year-old can run those softwares. It's not that software. It's not hard. It is making the emotional decisions and the human connection decisions that a computer cannot do. You're not going to be able to program it in, because let's be real, AI is being programmed by, sorry guys, white males in general.
No, you're right.
It just is a fact. And so it's like, I'm not worried about the emotional connection being taken away and having AI do it. I love AI tools. Oh my God, I love them so much. I think they're incredible because it makes my job easier and it allows me to focus on the thing that I love about editing, which is that human connection and telling that story that you can only tell by finding the exact shot where like it's in their eyes and like their eyebrows go up just to scotch. AI can't find that. AI can make a person walk through the Serengeti when they've never been there, but it can't find the connection. So I love AI tools. I think they're incredible. I encourage students all the time to use them. We definitely use a lot of AI to clean up audio in trailers because when I provide films, they're not the clean version in general. So we've been using that a ton to just help mix stuff and, you know, make that part work. Mostly, and again, because I know students can't use AI to tell the story itself. It's going to fall flat every time. Mm-hmm. So I love it.
I'm going to steal your point about sound effects, I think. I wasn't going to bring that up, but after you mentioned that, I thought about the difference between two of the trailers I brought as good examples. One is the Mission Impossible 7 teaser, which still gets me amped, but as you pointed out, no sound effects. And the other trailer that I brought that I love is the Black Panther trailer, the second one. Not for Wakanda Forever, but the second trailer for the first Black Panther movie.
Did we bring? No, I brought the teaser.
The full trailer for
you brought
Black Panther.
You brought the one
that second trailer.
I think it's my favorite trailer.
So
I remember that
Both
was
of
back
the
when
original
I
Black
was.
Panther trailers are good, like
Here's-
really good.
And I brought Black Panther because they're all like, and you'll see like mine has an X and a check mark next to it. It has a check mark because it is a great trailer for advertising to a very specific audience. It's a terrible trailer morally because the trailer dives into, okay, we have a black superhero, and who is that not going to play to? White Southerners. But we need to get Kansas. We need to get Georgia, not Atlanta. We need to get Georgia proper. We need to get Florida to go see this movie because we know we have $1 billion movie, but we could have a $2 billion movie. If we can get all of the white people who are not okay with ethnicity to go see this trailer. And when the other trailers really played to what Black Panther was, and it was very much for the audience, the minority audience and people who are just fans of the comic book and things like that, the teaser it's problematic, and it's just in the pacing of it and the music that they chose and the shots that they chose. They're basically, it's like a wink and a nod and a subliminal, hey, white people, it's okay, you can go see it too. Hey, crazy Ku Klux Klan, you can go see this too because you know what? We're going to make the white person the hero. And of course, again, they don't care that then all of those super racist human beings are going to go see the movie and be like so pissed off when they get into that movie and they go, oh my God, it's only got the Hobbit
and Gollum.
And Gollum are the only two white people in this entire movie. Oh my God. And one of them's the bad guy and the other one's the lackey. They don't give a shit because they've already gotten those people who would never go see this movie because they're kind of terrible people to pay the money and go see it. And they filled that theater. They got what they wanted. And so it's a beautiful trailer for what it does, but I have so many moral issues with it because it's very deceiving. That said, that is an audience I'm all for deceiving. I have no problem with it.
You're
I will
talking
take
the
their
Run
money.
the Jewels trailer, the one you brought, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Whereas like but they all do it really, really well. The Black Panther trailers in every aspect nailed it.
Hey, Angel, where's your Black Panther trailer?
Where's
went
my
through
Black
that.
Panther trailer?
Yeah,
We only had like one other one he could even bring. We already brought the other three.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Where's,
there's only oh man, I didn't even think of that. Yeah. You know what it was?
Yeah.
I've listened to that original teaser so many times and like the original like full trailer so many times that I'm like, these feel too easy. I tried to bring in trailers that like I love but either haven't seen in a while or like when I watched them like it brought up like a new feeling, and I probably listen to the Black Panther trailer like at least once every couple weeks, or like watch
When you
it. Like
say
it's
listen,
that
you're watching it because
I'm watching and or listening. Like so, like I
see,
said,
here's the
sometimes I
thing:
use them
you
when I
listen
work
to
out.
it. If you listen to it, you're like, oh, this just plays for everyone. But then if you watch it, and like I give an entire giver level talk about the Black Panther trailers and talking about like I say to students, I literally just play them. I'm like, okay, who was the audience? And then we watch it again and they're like, oh, like, you know, saying like enemy or saying like lesser than and showing a shot of Chadwick Boseman.
Oh,
But saying, so they say at one point in the teaser, and you have to watch it to see it. It's all about how
Right.
they line up the shots. And like, there's a shot where they're, for instance, watching the interrogation of Serkis's character. And with the way they play the shot, like Chadwick Boseman turns and looks at her, and it's the same look they use in the second trailer. In the second trailer, he's like, oh, this fucktwat. And he's just like he's cocky in a beautiful way. He's just like, this guy's such an idiot. But when you watch it in the teaser, which was very much for the white, more Southern like audience that they were trying to like trick into the theater to see something they would never pay money to go see. When he looks at her with the way they paced it out and where it comes in the music, he looks like he's afraid. So you have like
You're right.
these white guys having this thing, and then he like looks over and he's like almost like he's questioning his ability, which is not something the character ever does. He knows he's a badass. He knows he's the king. He's not worried about it. But the way they play it, and then they talk about, and I don't remember the exact line of dialogue, but it's like the colonized and the colonizer. And
Oh, the conquered and the conquerors.
the conqueror and the conquered.
Yeah.
The conqueror falls on a shot of Chadwick Boseman. The conqueror falls on the white guy. If you want to
Yeah,
get
it does.
race like people who are bigoted,
I know
you've
that
got to
Andy
show
Serkis shot where
them.
he's pointing
You've
the
gotta,
gun. Yeah.
Yes, you've got to show them
Oh,
Andy
yeah.
Serkis being the conqueror. When we all know it's gonna be Chadwick Boseman. He is the conqueror, and he is gonna conquer them. But you have a whole audience that you're trying to pull in. You've got to hit their subliminal little. You got to tap it. You got to tap that little racist card and be like, hey, you're going to see white people dominating Africans. And they did it. They did it beautifully. And they had a multi-billion-dollar movie and ultimately franchise that, you know, and again, they don't care that crowd did not go see Wakanda Forever. They didn't care. But they got them for the first one. And it's just those little tiny subliminal things. So you can often listen to something and you'll walk away with a very different feeling than if you watch it and you really watch it and know that every single shot has been thought over for days, weeks. Like they knew exactly what they were doing when they had the shot of Serkis pointing the gun and then the shot of him walking across the field, which is this triumphant, like, bring it, bitch shot. They knew that when they put it in that order over that dialogue, that it would, you know, the average audience wouldn't think twice about it, but it would stroke the ego of the audience that they were really trying to get the money from. Because again, it all comes down to dollars. So it's why the Black Panther trailers they work so well, but they also, they hurt sometimes. They hurt my heart.
I don't think you broke down that one in the class I took.
No, me neither.
I started doing it right after COVID. I think the first time I really broke it down.
Oh, that's when I was there. Maybe
in
I just
the big
forgot.
screening room.
Oh no, we were in the editing room, so I guess.
Yeah, I started doing
one.
it in the big screening room like right after
I
COVID.
remember
It was like
watching
my first group back.
The trailer Evan picked, not the teaser one, but the main trailer for our class.
Yeah, well, and I used to like just show it because it was so good, and then I started watching all three of them, and I also do the same thing with Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman, you talked about when I was
there's
in the
the
class.
4 different trailers, and one is totally for teenage boys and over sexualizing Wonder Woman, and then you've got one that's for little girls. It really is for little girls. You've got one that's for women, just straight women, and then you've got like the overall trailer that's sort of for everyone. Like they had a very clear focus, and how much thigh they show and how far up her ass crack they show really depends on the audience. And it's just little tiny things where when it's the little girl trailer, there are no thigh shots, but when it's for Comic-Con, for Hall H, there's lots of thigh and there's lots of like bosom shots, whereas for every other trailer those don't exist because they don't exist in the film. They're not in the movie. The movie is a strangely feminist, beautiful little thing. But again, it's all about your audience.
I remember you walking us through those sets of trailers in class was really eye-opening for me when you did that. I know we didn't cover, I think there were a couple others that you pointed to. I'm not thinking of them now, but I remembered the Wonder Woman ones. I remember we spent a long time on that.
We spent a long time on that. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
I think it was like a whole one of the days, day of that we did.
I only took basic with you, but I don't know if you remember, something happened to where we had to cut one of the projects. I think we only had the first 3. We never did a trailer for my class.
Well, and for basic, I stopped doing trailers in basic back in like, I want to say like 2015, 2016, just because it's such a difficult form of editing that like to really truly get, even though it has a very set format, and it's like if you just follow the format, it's really not hard, and a lot of it is a lot of prep, like really diving into the material. But it's definitely one of the harder forms, like that and unscripted, like doc style stuff is really hard to edit just because you have to establish the story that you want to tell. And that's why like going off script, and often in a trailer, you'll watch something and go, oh, this is what the film's going to be. And then you go into the film and you're like, wow, that is not what this film was at all. Again, they don't care. Like you can tell Mary Poppins is a horror film if you think it's going to get more people in seats than if you told it as the Disney musical. One of the examples I give is taking my 11-year-old fresh off the boat from China adopted son Jack to the Frozen opening weekend. Because the only trailer we saw for Frozen, it focused on the snowman. And my son was just learning English, so he was a little old for it, but there was nothing else in the theater. And we watched the trailer, and the trailer was super focused on the snowman, and he was funny. And I was like, okay, this could be like a quirky, weird animated film. It's, it's the only thing out this weekend, so let's go see it. And we went to the theater, got the tickets, got our popcorn, and I'm standing in the theater, and I'm like, there are a lot of princess dresses around here. I wonder what other movie is coming out. And then we're sitting in the theater, and I've got my 11-year-old son who's, again, just learning English. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, oh shit, this is a Disney princess movie. It was the most horrendous 2 hours of my life. Was sitting in there with all of the dads who lost rock, paper, scissors and had to take their daughters to go see that movie. And then there's me and Jack, and he's just like looking at me like, what in the actual fuck are we watching? And I was like, welcome to America, kid. This is what happens when you have but again, they didn't care. They had my money. They had my money for me and my almost teenage son watching Frozen on opening weekend. They don't care as long as they get their money. So like finding that story that is going to relate to people. I would have never taken him to see that movie if I'd seen the other trailers that really focused on the sister friendship princess storyline, because it makes me want to gag. But we saw the snowman one.
I think the only trailer I remember seeing for that was just the reindeer and the snowman, like
Yes!
like slipping around
That's
on
what a
an
lot of the
ice
selling
pond.
point was.
It was
Not
a huge
even in the
selling
movie.
point.
But it probably, I bet that's not the only story of people who only saw that trailer or something like it and didn't realize it was a princess movie. I bet they got more people.
And Denis Villeneuve, your Dune director, who is, well, and Jelani, if you only took basic with me, you never got my Arrival final.
Oh,
So
I remember the Arrival
my
one.
favorite movie on ever. Like, people are like, what's your favorite movie? And everybody's like, I can't answer that. Like, there's so many. Arrival. I can do it. I can name my top 5. It's super easy.
That is a
It's not
solid
problem.
choice.
It was a great trailer in that it misled me into thinking it was just an alien movie.
So is it not just about? I've never seen it.
No, it's very different.
We're going to have to
That's the
have you
whole thing
back
with the
for
wider
Arrival.
appeal too. Like, more people are going to go see an alien movie.
You do a thing on Arrival.
I'll hit you up.
I've got the entire movie broken down by time code, second, and shot, because I show it for intermediate editing as the final. And I really just do it because I want to watch the movie again. And I want to share it with students, but then I ask them a question at the end. And I'm like, based on what the filmmaker showed you, answer this question. And then we like take a vote, and then I break down why they're all wrong. Again, like, and even like Blade Runner, I am not a fan of the original. I'm not a fan of the original Blade Runner. Yet I went to go see that Blade Runner, just because it was that director, and I think he's and this is a strong statement, but I think he is the best director kind of ever. And the advertising for Blade Runner, I was just like, I don't even like Blade Runner, and I'm going to go see this movie. And it was the trailer. It was showing off the color, and the music was so moody. I was like, I'm in. I don't even care that I hated the original. And the same thing with Dune. If you had told me 30 years ago, you're going to go and watch Dune in the theater in IMAX and 70 millimeter, and you're going to wait in line to get those tickets, and you're going to be I would have been like, you're nuts. That's the movie that's the book my dad would sit in the basement and read. Like, that was such a nerd factor. I was like, no way in hell. And I was like, and with the second one, the trailers, they just hit. And like, again, like the playing of Zendaya, you play to your audience. How do you get a bunch of young females or young males who haven't really tapped into their nerd factor yet? You just show Zendaya, who's the biggest star on television because of Euphoria. And you make entire trailer campaigns around a chick who's going to be in the movie for 5 minutes. 5 minutes of screen time in a 2 hour
they use like
and
every
40
shot of
minute
her
movie.
in those trailers.
The entire, but it's not
she's
even
in
that.
half the trailer, but
It's not
in
even that.
most of
No,
the
the
movie.
trailer isn't even about Paul Atreides. It is about Zendaya's character. The entire thing. It's taken, all the shots are of her. All of the voiceover is from her voice. He's just like the squirmy little skinny guy that apparently we're all going to follow. We're not following him. We're following Zendaya. We'll follow her to the death.
I do feel like Chalamet was a big selling point too, though, for like a certain...
No, he was not. No.
A little bit, though. Like,
there's people who like
maybe
him.
for like 13-year-olds who are like,
I'm not one of them,
shut
but like, yeah, like there's people. I think he's good in the movie.
Oh, no, and I will say, he kind of stepped up, but he's not really that character. That said, teenage girls love him because he looks like a teenager. And there's a few older women who are also like, he is so cute. I'm just like, ugh. Like, he looks like a teenager.
One of my sisters says he looks like Dry Bones from Mario.
Yes.
Which I think is kind of a funny take.
But
she's a Harry Styles fan, so
the number of people, though,
lies.
They shot themselves in the foot, though, with the first trailer versus the second trailer. The trailers for the second movie were just as good. But because they had featured Zendaya so much and so many people went to go see that movie to see her and then walked out of the theater like, what in the actual fuck just happened? Like, we did not get our Zendaya. We didn't get our quota. They didn't want to see, like, the number of students that I talked to, I was like, you guys are going to go see Dune, right? And they were all like, yeah, no, we're not falling for that again. And I was like, no, seriously, like the whole second movie and the third one is going to be all Zendaya. It's really about Zendaya. Paul Atreides really is just a lost puppy following
And I mean,
her
it
around.
is though, like for real,
there's
which
a
you
lot
wouldn't
of
know from the
Zendaya
trailers
It was,
necessarily, but
they
like,
just
yeah.
didn't, but they didn't know that it was basically a setup movie, that the first one really was just explaining the world.
So
And
she's
it was a
not in
setup. So they were disappointed and they didn't want to see the second one. And
I
the number
didn't
of students I
finish
had
the
to
first.
talk into going to see it or renting it, like when it came out, was huge. And they were all students who had seen the first one and were disappointed by the movie because the trailer so focused on Zendaya that they were like, we're not falling for it again.
So I didn't finish. I'm only like 48 minutes into the first. Is she not? She's not really in it.
In the first
Not
one,
till
no.
the end.
Not a lot.
No.
She's
Second one,
really
she's
not.
huge.
It's really a setup movie. But so many people didn't watch it because they were so, hurt by the first one. Because she only is in it for like 5 minutes, like literally 5 minutes of screen time total when you add it all together. You just got to get through it though. I promise it pays off.
It is.
I mean, I'm
It
not
does.
watching for Zendaya. I'm just watching for what I hear is a good story. So
It is.
I mean, the whole
and
thing's
Devin New
good.
does it beautifully. Sorry. I could talk about that. I could talk about that director.
Well, we
and
haven't
his
done any of
films.
his, and I do plan to, so I'll hit you up for it. I do want to get through the rest of our questions here because we still have a couple.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. You're going to have some editing. to do.
I know. So I'll run through my like pluses real quick. Second, everything we've said about the music. If it can be a music video and like have good sound design, if you can get the sound of it stuck in my head, I'm pretty much there. The Black Panther trailer got me to break my Marvel boycott. I was like, yeah, this might be the best trailer ever. I guess I'll go see this.
nice.
Another thing that hooks me in, second a few of the things you guys have said, if you can do like it's a little bit of a trope at this point, but if you can do a good cover of a song, that works. Like a recent one that's done that, The Bad Guys 2 has a cover of Billie Eilish's Bad Guy. It
So
goes
good.
hard. It's like so orchestral. It works really well. The other thing, so another two trailers that I had you guys watch as my picks, Gone Girl and Mainstream, are two that I think do a really good job of like giving you just enough. They give you so many like not contradictory, but like opposing either lines or shots or just a sense of, okay, whoa, what's going to happen here? Like, it doesn't spoil anything, but it hooks you in. Like, by the end of the Gone Girl trailer, you've had so many different takes on, like, you're starting to form your own opinion of Ben Affleck's character. It tells you enough to get the premise, like, okay, this guy's wife has disappeared. People think he did it. And they've just bombarded you with so many different, like, well juxtaposed shots or lines, and then you end with Kim Dickens or the exchange like the right answer is always the simplest one, and Kim Dickens says, "No, I don't think that's true." I'm like, hell yeah, that is gonna sell me. For Mainstream, I've heard the movie's not great, but I still haven't seen it. But that trailer, I think, just such a good job of just selling us on like Andrew Garfield's gonna play this really weird dude. And, like, I feel like no other trailer has done as good of a job of just playing up somebody's performance. And, like, I've heard it's bad. I still think I'm going to watch it someday. Because I just, like, that character
And Garfield's
looks really
one of those
interesting.
guys. He's one of
He
those
is.
little fancy Brits who you're just like, oh, you're a vampire? Oh, no, you're actually gifted. And one that also does it, and it's a new movie that just came out, was We Live in Time. I had a student bring it to class this term, and you watch the trailer and you're like, oh, like it's like there's this moment where the parents are like sitting this little girl down and they've gotten her a milkshake and they're like, we've got to tell you something. And you're like, oh, great, it's a breakup story, and they're going to tell it through like trying to raise their daughter well. And it is one of the most tear-jerking films I've ever seen. It's incredibly beautiful. It totally screws with time, but they do it really well. But again, it has like Garfield in it, and you're just like, oh, he's going to just play like this heartthrob who, goes and breaks somebody's heart. And then the trailer just twists it around. Like right when you think you know what this film is about, like they sucker punch you with another fact about it. And you're just like, oh shit, that's totally different. And then you actually go see the movie and you're just like, well, crap, like that was really, really good, especially in the genre that it's in. But when you have an actor like that, where you can play up their performance and they're definitely playing a character that they maybe haven't played before, it's a huge selling point, because you'll get all of the fangirls and fanboys to go see it and then be very surprised by that actor or actress and then want to watch other weird stuff that they've been in. So yeah, We Live in Time is another one that I'd highly recommend.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get to it. I think it's an interesting line to walk, because there's so many other examples of, especially like drama trailers, where they're giving you either too much or not enough. I think A24 movies tend to be good about not showing too much plot, but sometimes they fall on the end of having too little, where you get to the end of the trailer and you're like, I don't even really know what that's gonna be. Sometimes they nail it, but other times I'll just be like, okay, A24 might get me there, but what is this?
They're more mainstream now. They used to really be like the vibe trailer company, because their films were the vibe. Like it really was a feeling that you went to go see those movies for, and the movies that were all really good. But the way they advertised was to that like artsy vibe audience. The company that's doing that now and has kind of, because A24 is no longer this like independent studio, they're making like these massive budget studio films now, is the company has sort of taken their spot, is Neon.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of any of the Neon films, and yet the second a trailer starts, I'm like, that's a Neon film. Like I don't even need to see the logo, because they all have just a feeling. Like the Glow movie.
I saw the TV Glow.
Oh, I saw the TV Glow.
Yeah, I saw the TV Glow. Wasn't a fan of the movie, but I literally was, as I was watching it, I was like, oh, this has to be a Neon film. Oh, yep, there it is. Like, because it's just a feeling that they do.
The other thing that kind of does that, this is a throwback, because this studio is not really a thing anymore. I feel like old Miramax trailers all kind of have the same vibe.
They were the original. No, Miramax was before, when they like really first started, they were the A24. They were the independent studio. And then they had they started winning every award, just like A24, and like Shakespeare in Love and all these other things.
Good Will Hunting.
And Good Will Hunting, and they jumped on that train, and they were like, money. They still made great stuff, but then they declined, and then A24 moved in, and then they declined, and then Neon has moved in, and Neon is such like a vibe that they're never gonna like, I mean, ask me again in 10 years, but I don't see them, because they very much have a vibe to their studio that's not just an independent thing. It's like a very artsy thing. I don't know how much it will really take off in the way Miramax and A24 did, but their trailers and the formula they're using for their trailers is very much in like paying homage to what Miramax and A24.
Okay, let's move into the next question, which is, what do we not like from trailers? So let's keep the order. Jelani, what are your negatives for trailers?
I don't have a lot, and like Jocelyn said, there's only so many elements to trailers. So one of mine is bad quotes. You have the entire movie to choose from as far as dialogue goes. You can even have the actors record new dialogue for some trailers,
and they do.
Yeah. And you decide to put that line in it. One I didn't include on my list, but I'm sure most of us know what I'm talking about. The spider line from Madam Web.
I was literally just thinking about that a second
I was
ago.
like, he's gonna say it. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And that's one that like is also not in the movie. There's like a variation on it, but they recorded it for the trailer, and it's awful.
Yeah.
But I talked about that a lot leading up to the movie.
There's a Rogue One line that I had a student cutting a trailer for Rogue One. There's a line of dialogue in the trailer that the student, I kept saying, like, you need this line. And he was just like, yeah, that doesn't exist in the movie. And I was like, shit, did they just record it for the trailer? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, steal it from the trailer. Just use it. Like, because it's a good line. Use it. So it was one of those times where it actually worked. As far as like using lines, you have to be so careful. And you definitely question sometimes. You're like, why the hell did they just waste even a second when you only have 2.5 minutes or less to tell me the story, and you just wasted 1 second of it on something that did not come off well, like it was bad.
Sometimes it's better just to let the music play or just not have anything there at all. Another one that comes to mind that people made fun of, I mean, it was justified, but They Fly Now from, I forget which one it was. Was it Rise of Skywalker?
It was Rise of Skywalker, yeah.
But from the ones I've chose, in the Mortal Kombat one, the main character's daughter, they had so many characters to choose from, and they made one.
I know what you're about to say.
Yeah, they made a, what's it called? Like an audience insert character?
Audience surrogate, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, audience surrogate character, yeah.
For the Mortal Kombat movie, when Johnny Cage was right there. Main character's daughter says it's a birthmark. One of the other characters asks, what's that mean? She says it means he was born with it.
Yes. I'm not even kidding. I wanted to bring that up because that's the only reason I still watch that trailer, because that's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
We have the entire Blue Collar Comedy Tour because of shit like that. It's like, and here's your card, you dumbass. Like,
I almost didn't believe it when I heard it. I'm like, what? That's not right.
It's a mark he was born with. Okay.
That answers my question entirely. I have no further inquiries.
No, it's like I always show in my trailer class, I show Dances with Wolves, because I'm like, this is what a trailer should not be, because this is from 1992. We didn't have trailers. And there's a whole line of dialogue where there's this no-name British, or like he's supposed to be a Southern like lieutenant or something in the military, and he looks at Kevin Costner's character and he's like, why are you coming to the West? And you can't even understand the guy because he's chewing while he says it, but he's basically saying, so why have you chosen to come out here? And Kevin Costner goes, I wanted to see the West before it's gone. And then it cuts back to the other guy and he's like, you wanted to see the West? And then it goes back to Kevin Costner and he's like, I wanted to see the West. And I was like, okay, for the love of God, we get it. You wanted to see the West. But like, this doesn't explain anything in the story. Why the hell are we like harping on it for 10 seconds back and forth? And it's like, in case
and 10 seconds is eternity in a trailer.
Oh my God.
So much, so long. Oh my God.
It's so bad. At least that one though can say, oh, we were made in 1991. So,
right.
We just had to show Kevin Costner saying something over and over again, and it sold the movie. There was no competition. But today, you can't waste even a single line.
Nah.
You don't get to.
My other thing is, I think most of us will agree with it, too much plot being revealed. Oh, you gave me the whole plot, and I can probably predict the rest on my own. No need to see the actual movie or waste my time with it. That's money saved and one less butt in the seat.
Yep. They do that less and less now.
Yeah, there was like a period a couple of years ago where they were just
bad.
telling everything.
Yeah, late 2010s I feel like was a really bad time for that.
Yeah.
It was also pre-Massive Secrets. Like, it really was. Like, if you think about like franchises and really having to keep stuff under wraps, they didn't have to do that as much back then. They really didn't. They were really playing to the fans and giving away as much as possible to get them psyched for it. Where then like Marvel came in and you had these bigger franchises, like even like the Twilight series, for instance, they had these like bigger things coming in that were going to be billion-dollar franchises. And it was like, if anybody says even a freaking sneeze, we're going to cut you off at the knees physically, and then we're going to hang your body from a bridge. And so it became more guarded, and then that just sort of became the thing. And it is rare now that you're going to see big plot points get revealed, though it does happen occasionally.
The most recent example that came to mind is the No Way Home with Andrew Garfield and interviews and all of that. He was saying, I'm not in it.
Oh, there's also the people who are just, they can't keep that shit under wraps. Tom Holland is one of those other actors.
They don't tell him anything.
They don't know. They won't tell him anything because he can't keep a secret.
Just handing him fake scripts and shit because, like, you have to.
He was told for the Iron Man funeral scene for Endgame, it was a wedding. And he was wondering why everybody else was, like, somber and crying. Yeah.
Bless him.
They're just like, we hate whoever's getting married.
To play devil's advocate a little bit with your point, Jelani, because I agree with you personally. Like, I hate it when they show too much plot. I think the one place that does have utility, it's bad for people like us who pay attention to trailers and know and can like kind of build the 3 act structure of the movie in our heads. I think for more like normies or lay people, I hope that's not too derogatory. Yeah, for
lots of detail.
They're like, they want to know, and they aren't people who are even considering watching like a trailer on YouTube. They don't know that Moana 2 is coming out until the day after it comes out, and they're like, oh, well, let's watch the trailer for it before we rent it on Amazon or whatever. They want all of that. They want more information, I think, because they want to know that it's going to be money well spent. Whereas I know I'm more experimental than a lot of people, but I'd much rather go in blind, because like I'll skip the trailer completely. I'll be like, oh, I haven't heard anything about this. Great. I'm going to not learn anything else. I know one person who's in it. That's more than I even want to know. But a lot of people are not like that. We were saying that earlier that some trailers are playing too much to the fan base. It's almost like the reverse issue. And how do you do both? You can't make something, or maybe you can. Maybe there is a line to walk. You have two trailers.
Yeah. One is for fans, one is for not.
But here's the thing. The fans are going to probably watch both, because
That's their problem.
And that's why I only do teasers now, because I've realized that teasers are for me, the trailers are for my parents. And but it takes a little while to learn that, I think, because when you're hyped for something, like you just go and you watch everything for it. You're like, oh yeah, I want to like see as much of this as I can. At least I used to be like that.
Well, and keep in mind too, with the older generation, and I'm flirting with that generation. Like at this point, I mean, I'm 42 years old, and it's when I watched movies when I was younger. Home Alone was the number one movie for like 14 or 15 weeks after Christmas. It was the number one movie in America because there was nothing else. There was no such thing as streaming. You had to watch TV. You had to get through all the commercials, and all the TV versions of movies were shit. Everybody knew that. Or you had to go to Blockbuster or Hollywood Video and rent the movie. And if there weren't any, you had to wait until one got returned. And then like you had to stalk Blockbuster until something got returned and you grabbed it off the shelf. So they didn't have to tell us anything other than show, oh, you know, Die Hard has Bruce Willis in it, who's kind of famous from that show Moonlight or Moonlighting, and everybody will go see it because there was nothing else to see. Whereas
completely
today,
different landscape now.
Literally today, I went on Netflix, and there's this feature that maybe it's been there forever, but I've only just seen it, where it said, here's everything being released by date for the entire month of December on Netflix. And I started I'm pressing on my remote, and I'm like, okay, I get like 150 titles in, and I realized I was December 6th. And they're in chronological order. I was literally hundreds in. 99% I'm never going to watch, but I was hundreds in, and I hadn't even gotten to like the quarter way through the month. And so there's so much competition that you have to almost give away enough to get the audience that is used to just going to see it because it has Kevin Costner in it. Or Harrison Ford. Like, we're just going to go see it because Harrison Ford is in it. Or we're going to go see it because that song pulls at our heartstrings, whether we're fans or not. It reminds us of 1977, so we're going to go see it. Without that, people in the older generation, and I'm putting Xers in that generation, they're not going to go see because there's too much competition. There is too much to go and see. So it's almost essential to kind of give us, if you're only going to get one trailer, if you only have the budget for one, which most films only have the budget for one, it's better to give away a little too much than to not give away enough, because you won't get butts and seats. So they don't really have a choice. It's really only the tentpole shows and movies that get more than one trailer. Black Panther got 3 because it was $1 billion movie.
Jelani, did you have other negatives you wanted to go through?
No, that was pretty much it. On the opposite end of the revealing too much, I think the Endgame trailer I think they had less than 5 shots from like Act 3 of that movie. They didn't show anything but Act 1. They were really careful because I think they knew everybody was going to see it.
Well, and they also knew everyone is picking that trailer apart shot by shot, trying to, because look, we're all little kids on Christmas Day. Everyone, if you're a fan, you are literally picking up the box, shaking it when your parents aren't in the room, and then trying to place it back in there so they don't know that you've picked it up and shook it to try to figure out what's in it. Like, we know we want it and we want to know what it is, even though we don't want to know what it is. We do.
I did that with the Hobbit trailers hard. I went like shot by shot through the last one.
You go through it, you're like, give me all of the info, and then because you know you're going to go see it, and so they do have to be really careful about not showing too much because they know that somebody on the internet is going to pull that shit apart and is going to ruin it for everybody.
Mm-hmm. And that everyone will hear about it. Like,
everyone will hear about it.
It's not going to be that one guy. It's going to be everyone. All right, Angel, let's move to your negatives. What do you not like?
Like we were saying, like I think there's not a lot of elements you can really go into, so I'm probably going to make a lot of similar points. But my biggest thing is always now, I hate when they give away important plot elements. And there's a couple of examples that I always come back to. One that I did send you guys is the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdoms last trailer. It's not exactly like it gives away the whole movie, but there was a direction they could have gone in that wouldn't have been misleading the audience on what the actual movie was about, but it took away the effect of the reveal in the actual movie. And I guess mild spoilers for that. You kind of find out that the initial plot that they were showing us about they're trying the island's going to be destroyed and they have to save the dinosaurs is not what the movie's actually about. And that would have been way more effective in the movie had they not revealed what it was like in the trailer. And so they don't show the whole movie, but they show probably the most important plot element that could have made the movie surprising. And I mean, the movie's not good anyway, but it would have.
You do know why they did that, right?
To appeal to
Have you read Jurassic Park?
I have not read Jurassic Park. No, I've seen the first movie a million times.
They blow that island up at the end of the book.
Damn.
The island blows up, so that showing the island be destroyed was a throwback to everyone who loved, and again, in my top 5 movies of all time is Jurassic Park, the original. It holds up. It's absolutely amazing. Spielberg ended it with the flying in the helicopter and they see the birds and you're like, oh, pterodactyls. And you're like, oh, birds became or dinosaurs became birds, whatever. In the book, the island is destroyed and they never go back because it's gone.
Which is a smart
move. They were putting that stuff in the trailer to appease original audience members. It was like a throwback for the original lovers of the original film and book. So it was, again, but it's such a minute detail that if you haven't read Jurassic Park, you don't I think I've talked to maybe 3 or 4 people who have actually read the book and know that the island is gone at the end of it. And I was the 10-year-old who walked out of that movie and went, they didn't blow up the island, Mom. And she was like, they probably didn't have the budget for that, honey. And I was just like, but they didn't blow up the island. And she's like, well, that means they get to go back. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was just I was a 10-year-old. I was just very easily appeased. But it was an international bestseller. It was millions of people read that book in the 80s and 90s. And they were very disappointed that he did not blow up the island. And then he gave us Jurassic Park 2, which we're just not going to talk about. But that was the whole thing. So it's such a weird, minute thing that they were trying to be cryptic and appeasing, but to such a small audience that it doesn't play.
I think it's an exciting enough idea that obviously we hadn't seen a Jurassic Park movie before. That was what kind of sold me on okay, maybe this will be good after the first trailer. But then when the first full trailer, but then you get to the second trailer and they kind of reveal actually no, it's, I don't even really remember what the movie's about now, but it's basically about they're taking the dinosaurs away to experiment on them and they're going to militarize them or whatever. And it's all bad.
And no one ever, I don't think there's a single trailer for that particular movie that actually dives into the genetic cloning of a little girl. which is the main point of that movie, is that little girl is, sorry, spoiler alert, that little girl is a freaking clone of her mother that was created genetically. Like, that's what the movie is actually about. The dinosaurs are an afterthought.
Yeah, but even the third one doesn't like really dive into that either. Like the third movie too. Like again, well, we're going off on a tangent again, but like as far as like Dominion, like she's in the movie and she's important, kind of, but that's not at all what the movie's about. And the movie's also not about the premise that those trailers were giving us either. Was like it was kind of what a lot of people have been waiting for. Was what they were pitching, was the idea of like, okay, now you're gonna see like dinosaurs in the real world. That's about 15 minutes at the beginning of the movie. And then the rest of the movie is not about that at all. It's about, like, something completely different.
The locust, right?
Yeah, the locust thing, which is, like, again, but then again, it goes back to that, like, whole, like, evil genetics company plot. I don't know anybody who saw those movies that actually cares about that stuff. All they wanted was, like, I want to see dinosaurs, like, in the real world.
Where trailer-wise, where they got me was, you know, that I'm a diehard Jurassic Park. Like, I'm an OG, like, die hard. Mm-hmm. Then you had the terrible second movie. You had a mediocre third movie. And since I was 10 years old, I literally walked out of the theater, and after discussing about the island not blowing up, I said to my mom, I was like, you know, the raptors scare the crap out of me, but they're like really, really smart dogs. Wouldn't it be cool if you could pick a dinosaur for a pet, it would definitely be a raptor, because you could totally train them. I was like, what if they train the raptors? I literally said this in 1993. And then when the Chris Pratt movie came out and they featured in the trailer him like blowing a whistle or whatever, and the raptors come calling and he like stops them, I was like, oh, it's happening. They've trained the fucking raptors. Like, my little kid heart exploded. And I was like on text chats with all the other old people, like just going, they're training the raptors. And they're like, I know, we always secret wanted it. Like, everybody wanted that thing. It was like this bizarre conversation starter around the water cooler was, what if they could train the raptors because they're so intelligent? And then Chris Pratt is whistling for raptors. And we were all in, like, and it was also Chris Pratt. We were all in. And that movie was mediocre. But then they continued to play on the, well, if you can train a raptor, what can we do? What else can we do? What else can we make and train? That it just got almost exhausted. Like, it killed the whole vibe of it. Yeah. And they're still talking about it in this one, which is 2 movies later. It's like, you're just like, come on, you guys are killing me here.
Angel, did you have more negatives you wanted to go through?
Actually, going off what Jelani said about the quotes thing, I find it more annoying, and maybe this is just that I also pick apart trailers, when you can really tell that they've edited a bunch, like they've stitched a bunch of different dialogue together, and it's just edited to... Is that what it's called?
Frankenbite. Yep.
Oh,
and if you can Frankenbite well, if you can Frankenbite really well, you make the money. But they don't Frankenbite well in Star Wars, which is at the Return of the Jedi. There is a line that they Frankenbite where I think it's Luke Skywalker going, this is not going to go how you think it is.
Oh, The Last Jedi.
Or The Last Jedi. It's like a quick line in the movie where he's having like a rapid fire conversation, and they take it and pull it apart and like shove stuff in between it, and you're just like, oh my god, this is so freaking tedious.
Or
and
they
the
stitch different parts of different lines together, and it's like when you
Sometimes
get to the movie, it's like,
really
yeah,
tell.
clearly that wasn't what they meant by that. Like, just to either mislead you or to like hype you up about something that's like not actually what it's about. And like, again, if you watch a million trailers like we do, you can tell when they're doing that, and it gets annoying because I feel like it pulls me out of it.
Spider-Man 2, I learned to cut my teeth on Frankenbites. It was the first time I had to do like a true Frankenbite that does not exist in the movie, and we couldn't get James Franco in to record. There was some contract thing, and there is a line where James Franco says, Spider-Man killed my father. He never says Spider-Man killed my father.
No, he does not.
But we had to Frankenbite. I had to pull individual words of James Franco in the movie saying Spider-Man killed my father. And the inflection, if you listen to it, it'll make your skin crawl, because the only "my father" is very clearly from a totally different sentence. And you're just like, that doesn't sound like somebody actually said it. So like the art of the Frankenbite, man, when we screw the pooch, we screw it hard. But you would be shocked at the number of Frankenbites that you haven't even noticed, because they're so essential, and yet they're such small things that you never notice that they actually said it very differently.
I will say, Jocelyn, we have a long history, mostly me and Jelani on this show, of hating on the Spider-Man trilogy. But before I saw them, because I saw
only you two. I love the Spider-Man trilogy.
I know.
We're going to talk about this more in later episodes, because
we will. But so I
this.
saw the original one and didn't like it when I was younger. It took me a long time to see 2, but I had seen the trailer for it. This was before I even got to Drexel and knew that you had cut it. And I was like, I don't know. I hated the first, but that does look kind of good. So
we made that.
It kind of worked on me, just
that
organically.
Said, I have students come in one of my classes and show something that they think was edited badly. And about, I want to say 2-3 years ago, we were in the editing room, and the kid sitting right next to me, he was like, he got up, and I'm like, I went and took his seat, and he took over the podium, and he's like, all right, so I'm going to show you a trailer today. And he's just like, it's just like the worst edited thing I've ever seen. And he pulls up Spider-Man 2. And another kid in the class is like, dude. And I'm like, let him go. Let him dig. And he shows the trailer, and then he brings up everything that's wrong with it. And I'm like, fair. That's also fair. Yep, I don't deny it. Like, I can admit.
See, it's weird because I heard you tell that story, and I don't like that movie, but I do like that trailer. I've seen it.
What's funny is the stuff that the kids are bringing up, they're all specific editing issues, and they're very much, they were the style of that time.
It's a very
so
like
trailer. I can talk through all of those mistakes, because I honestly agree with all of them. It doesn't hold up in all aspects today, but as a whole, it holds up. But I literally just looked at the kid and was like, yeah, I cut that. And he was like, oh my God, I didn't mean, and I was like, no, you were correct. And then had another kid also do it like 2 terms later. And I was like, are you guys just not talking to each other? Like, how does everyone not know at this point? But we're now getting so far removed from that movie and from the original trailer campaigns that students genuinely aren't talking about it.
Okay, so Jocelyn, let's move into some of your negatives.
You can't give away the boink, whatever that thing is. So like, if you're showing the giant alpha dragon in How to Train Your Dragon, the first trailer, it's like one of the worst trailers of all time. If you're showing the alpha, that is the surprise. Like, ultimately in that first movie, it is this alpha dragon. And if you're showing it in 5 different shots in the original trailer, even though you haven't made comments about it, the fact that you're showing it, you just can't do that. I will make a case for giving away a plot point, but you cannot give away the plot point. And I will say trailers in general are pretty good about not doing that. There are some that do, and those are the trailers that I just can't stand. That said, I don't mind getting some of the plot, just you can't give me the get. And like with How to Train Your Dragon, for instance, 2, when they show that the mom shows back up, that one of the main characters is the mom, and everybody's like, but the mom is dead. Everybody was like, they gave it away. No, they did not. What they didn't give away is that dad is going to die. And Toothless is an alpha. He's a tiny little alpha. So those are 2 plot points that they do not give away in the trailers. And those trailers are incredible, but they also give away a lot of plot points that, like, mom is still alive, dad is going to find out mom is still alive, but they don't give you the thing that would really, truly ruin the film for the vast majority. A good trailer doesn't do that. Another thing for me is an empty, soundless, visual feast that is not a trailer. Mission Impossible.
I still like it, but yes.
Not a trailer. It is a glorified music video. It has thriving music. It's got great shots. We have Tom Cruise running with excellent posture. We see that Tom Cruise is aging just a little bit, but in a way that everybody needs him to, because it was getting a little creepy. And we see some nuclear bombs. We see some submarines. We see Simon Pegg. We've got all of our characters. Visually, it's a feast. Audio-wise, it's just a dud. And pacing-wise, it's a dud. If you actually like watch it, there's only one point in that trailer, and I've watched it way too many times because I when it popped up, I was so stoked. It had been online for like 20 minutes, and I was like, yes! And I watched it, I was like, oh. Like, okay. Did they give us Tom Cruise? Yep. Did they give us this mission should you choose to accept it? Like, yes. Did they give us a throwback to the knife falling on the floor? Uh-huh. Like, they filled all of those things, but there isn't a single sound effect at all. There isn't even a muted gunshot. Like, nothing. They have not one, not two, but 3 shots of the flippin' keys that if you haven't seen, what is it, Dead Reckoning?
Yeah.
You're fucked. You're like, oh, that's a fancy key. Ooh, that's a fancy key too. Oh, are those different keys? Are those the same keys? Is he under an iceberg? And all of a sudden, you're just on a tangent in your brain. Like, if you have ADHD, which most of our society does, you can't focus because they're giving you so many shots that are so plot specific that if you haven't seen Dead Reckoning, I mean, you live under a rock because it's a great movie and you should go see it. But you can't have that many shots in a teaser be of a specific thing that nobody's going to have any idea what it is. And then to not have any sound effects at all, it's just hollow. And the one time that they actually try to cut on the beat of the music, there's a shot with like the gunshot, like it's like a machine gun thing spraying, and the music is like, it's off pace. It's off by like 4 frames from the music. All they had to do was pick up that fucking shot, move it 4 frames over, and it would have been like, oh, that was nice. Like, you would have had like a fake sound effect because it was just hitting on the music perfectly. Nope. But you know what? They have Tom Cruise running with upright posture, so it's a pass. All they had to do was move a few shots over, replace just one of those keys. Give me one more of Tom Cruise, just looking sexy in a creepy Scientologist way. One more of those. And add some muted gunshots, some like footsteps, maybe some desert winds, you know, maybe a little thud over Simon Pegg being like, I love you, Tom Cruise. And Tom Cruise is like, I love you too, dude. Anything would have made it feel more full. It just felt empty because there's nothing but the music and they're not even cutting on the music. I don't have any issues, honestly, with the shots, and I make fun of the keys, but I would even let you keep the keys. You could keep all the key shots. You could keep like the 5 shots of him under an iceberg when, come on, can we all talk about how cold that water is and the fact that somebody's diving down deep to French kiss him? I have so many issues with it, but I would let them all pass if they had actually sound mixed that trailer and given me anything to just bring it to that next level. And that's why it falls desperately flat. And it also pisses me off because it's like, I know that they were sitting in that edit room and they were like, we are Mission Impossible gazillion. Everybody's going to go see this, so we can phone it in. It felt to me like because we know that everybody is going to go see this movie, we don't have to put any effort into this trailer. We can have a good song, some good shots, slap them together and push that shit out. And it's almost disrespectful to the audience because they didn't have the time to add. You don't even need to give me a day. You give me 2-3 hours and I can add in sound effects at just key points, little key points. I can move a few shots over and it would feel more like, hey, fans, we adore you. You guys have shown up for us for the other gazillion movies, and we're not going to give anything away, but we're going to give you a little taste of what you can expect to see, and you're welcome. Instead, it was, hey guys, you're going to come see this fucking movie, so you're welcome that we're giving you a teaser. It's a little condescending, especially for what's going to be $1 billion movie. They have the budget to add sound effects to 1 minute and 47 seconds. And when they don't, it hurts.
I think I remember when I was doing the Inception trailer I made for Intermediate, I did lean more on, I definitely did it more in that style. And I'm okay, I'm a lot more okay with it than you are. But I remember the first set of notes, or a set of notes that you gave me for that was add some sound effects in. I don't know that I added a lot, but I do think like it does elevate it. I maybe added like 3 or 4.
It makes it feel more complete. It makes it feel more full. And like, another, like a series that really did it badly at the beginning and then they really brought it home at the end was like the original Skull Island trailers. The first ones, they were such in a rush to push that crap out. Kong looked like a chimpanzee, which is a problem because he's a gorilla. So like the effects weren't even done. And what they showed us of it was crap. And then you had an entire trailer that was really just based on a music track, and there were no sound effects. And then whenever they did the final trailer, it hits. Like the movie, very mediocre, but that final trailer of Skull Island is spectacular. And it's literally just like adding in like a machine gun, having it hit on the music. So you're getting not just a great song, not just great pacing, but you have that little tiny cherry on top that just completes it and also says, hey, we respect you as an audience and we want to really give you a taste of what you're going to, what you're ultimately going to get. And with the sound effects, another one that I maybe taught in class, but is one I definitely harp on, are the Logan trailers. You had 2 Logan trailers. Excellent freaking movie. Probably one of my favorite superhero comic book movies of all time. The first trailer, they threw it out. And everybody was texting me. They're like, yo, have you seen the Johnny Cash Logan trailer? That was what everyone's text said. So I jump on to YouTube, I'm watching it, and I'm like, what is this piece of shit? Like, what is this? And it was exactly what students said. A Johnny Cash trailer. And the whole thing is on the Hurt song, which everyone knows, but none of the shots are on pace. The lines of dialogue don't work because they're competing with Johnny Cash. You don't compete with Johnny Cash. It just becomes a Johnny Cash music video. And then they created a second trailer, which is objectively, it's a phenomenal trailer. It's almost identical to the first one, but they changed the song. They used a new group that wasn't really super popular here. It's an Icelandic band called Kaleo. And their song ultimately blew up and became huge. And they had this huge following because of it. But then they also added sound effects. They just took the shots that were completely empty because they were competing with Johnny Cash too much. They added them in, and you had this full, vibrant, incredible thing where we knew what to expect, but we didn't know what was really going on. And when you're missing that, you are missing a massive element to selling a movie. My mom was like, oh, I like that song. Did she want to go see Logan? No. I showed her the second trailer. She wanted to go see Logan. I mean, mostly because of Hugh Jackman, but she wanted to go see it because she's like, oh, I kind of get what that's about. It's like a father-daughter story or something. And I was like, actually, that's strangely correct. But yeah, you have to have the sound effects. It does elevate everything. And it doesn't have to be all the way through, but it does have to be there.
Okay. Is that all your negatives?
That's really it. I mean, you either fuck it up or you don't. Like, I hate to say it, like, there's no, like, mediocre trailers. There aren't. They're either ones you really like or ones you're like, eh. And if you're like, eh, you're not putting a butt in a seat. So it sucks. There's no C. There's an A or an F on trailers, I think, in general.
I think that's a fair assessment, yeah. To close out the negatives, you guys said a few of mine. Giving things away, I don't like it. Anything that cheapens the final product. I'm okay with lines that aren't in it as long as they are not completely misleading. I still prefer if you don't do it, but it's not a completely, like, cardinal sin for me. I had you guys watch, one of the ones that I brought was The Heat. Not Heat, the De Niro Pacino
Oh,
movie,
yeah,
but The
Melissa
Heat.
McCarthy, yeah.
Yeah, Melissa McCarthy, Sandra Bullock. Now, I didn't pick that because it's an especially bad trailer individually. I picked it because I watched a lot of 2010's comedy trailers because I really hate all the tropes in them, and I think that was the best one I could find for having like all of them. The Vine boom sound effect that they use for before like any punchline and then cut the music out. I'm so sick of that. And they do it in a lot of like non-comedy trailers too. Anytime there's a joke in a trailer, you cut the music out, stop. It's like it's as bad as a laugh track at this point for me. Cringe jokes in anything will be a big turnoff for me. Like it might not prevent me from seeing it, but if your joke doesn't land, it's really bad. I don't know if 2010's comedy movies were bad because I haven't seen most of them, but I haven't seen most of them because I hated all the trailers.
Which is funny because like The Heat is genuinely funny.
Doesn't
like
look
it's just funny. Whereas then you have like Grown Ups, which I don't remember what year that came out, but with Grown Ups, the trailer is hysterical, and then you go see the movie and every single line is in the trailer. And the rest of the movie sucks. And again, bad on me because they got what they wanted. They got me into the theater, but I went into it expecting it to be much funnier. Like they were only like touching the surface of the comedy. And they gave it all to you before you even went in. Comedies and horrors are two of the hardest ones to market because you can't make it too funny, but you have to make it funny enough. But you can't give it all away, but you got to give away enough. And with horror, you've got to make it scary, but you also have to show that it's something that people want to see. So that means you have to show some of the scary, but then you're giving it all. There's such a fine line of doing it well, and it's really hard to do.
Did you see the new Alien trailer?
Romulus?
Romulus? Yeah, did you see that?
Yes.
What did you think of that one?
It's so hard. I actually like the movie. I do. Like, I think it, like, as far as the remakes and, like, the jumping into that world, I think Romulus is one of the better ones that they've done. They also did do a lot of, like, practical stuff on it. The problem with all the Alien trailers in general is that with anything scary, once you've seen it, your brain starts to adapt and figure out, like, I love like a good apocalypse movie because I'm not sitting there thinking like, oh, the world isn't going to freeze over. Or, like, that's ridiculous. I'm like, what would I do? Oh my God, I've got my Go Pack. I used to like, I'd get my kids, I'd get my mom, we would get out. Like you're literally prepping and making a plan for it. Your brain can't help itself. So once you see something that's scary, it does lose a huge part of being scary.
I think I mentioned that on this podcast. That's I think I mentioned your class being the first time I heard that, and I've incorporated that since.
And the original Alien is fucking terrifying because you're watching that movie and you do not see the alien. Like, you see a little alien pop out of the guy's chest and you're like, ew, that was gory. But you don't see the alien in all of its glory. And then you've got the guy and he's going down the steps and they're like trying to guide him because he doesn't know where he's going. And they're like, go left. And he's like, which left? My left or your left? Because he's gone down a ladder and he just turns and the fucking alien head is right there. And you're like, holy shit. And it's the first time that you've really seen it. And like and you don't even see its full size. You just see its head and realize how big it is. And you're then like, holy shit, who's going to run into this next? And then they don't give you all of that alien until near the end. And then you were like, how are they going to make Aliens 2 scary? They gave us The Queen, which is like the single most terrifying monster movie of all time, or monster character, because even though we knew what the aliens looked like, we didn't know what their fucking queen looked like. And she's even worse than all of her little minions. And so, and again, they avoided showing us that queen for as long as possible. Then in every movie after that, we already know what the aliens are going to look like, which means you can't show them at all. You can insinuate they're there, but you cannot show them because we have to like be able to forget enough so that we're like jumping. And like Prometheus, I remember watching the trailers. I was super excited for the movie.
Those are some fantastic trailers. The movie's not great. Those are
but even in the trailers, though, the trailers were great.
Ship.
Yeah, they had them like over the ship and like hoarding, and you're just like, I know how I survive that shit. I get into a capsule with my cat. And it's like, you already know what you would do to survive that situation. So it was like, they would have done better not to show that there would be all of these aliens like running in. And a movie that does it perfectly in a movie stance and a trailer stance, and also in my top 5, A Quiet Place.
Hell yeah.
Man, are those trailers perfect, because there were 2. You had the teaser and then you had the full length. In the teaser, you don't see that creature. You do not see that creature until near the end of the movie itself. So they never gave that away. They had you on the edge of your seat because they really played up the quiet. And so when there was a sound, you were leaping out of your seat and there was nothing there. And in the teaser, they were very careful not to give away the plot point of, oh, by the way, we're going to add a infant and a birth to this situation. 2 things that you cannot make quiet if your life depended on it. And every woman who's ever birthed a child is going to know that. And also the fact that anyone who's ever had an infant in their hands is going to know you can't keep an infant quiet. So it's going to die. And then in the second trailer, they did, and they were so careful in the teaser, there is not a single shot that shows that this is a movie about a family. They made it straight a monster horror film. And then in the second trailer, the entire trailer is about, what would we do if we can't protect them? And it became a family drama that has like this thing trying to tear the family apart. Oh, and oh my God. And by the way, like, and they just did little things, like they just showed her touching her belly. And I was like, holy shit, she's pregnant. Oh, they're fucked. And it was phenomenal. Like, it was so good because it just added just a little bit more plot, but enough that like made it even scarier. Which, speaking of movies that, because the trailer was so bad, you went to go see the movie. Quick, what is the movie that the trailer was really bad, still saw the movie because you were like, it is so bad, I'm here for that shit show? Jelani.
Closest one I can think of is Bullet Train, but I was told to watch it.
God, I can't get through that movie.
I didn't like the trailer at all.
The trailer is bad.
Yeah, same, but the movie's
That's
okay.
a pretty bad trailer. That's an example of some cringe jokes keeping me away from something.
Yeah,
Angel.
that's the reason.
Name a movie. The trailer was really bad, and that's why you saw the movie. And were you surprised by the movie? Because I have one.
Usually if a trailer's bad, I don't go see it unless it's part of like a franchise I'm already in. Like Marvel movies, I've seen a lot of them, even if the trailer's bad. So yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if
This is a weird
have
example
any.
because this is not a movie. This is a TV show. Sleepy
that works.
Hollow, old TV show. Trailer's not good.
Bad.
Show is very good.
The first season
At
or
least
two
the first
was
season
not
or two is very
bad.
good. It's
I
not
agree.
bad, but the
I will
trailer's
agree with
not
you.
good, which is very,
very
weird.
bad.
The one
Yeah.
with Jesus? The
one
guy
with
who played Jesus?
No.
Yeah.
He looks like Jesus, but he didn't play Jesus.
No, it's a
In The
British
Passion?
actor
Uh,
that plays.
I know there was a Sleepy Hollow that had the guy who played Jesus in it, so I don't...
No.
maybe it's not the same Sleepy Hollow.
No, you know what it is? He has the same look. I don't think that you're thinking of...
Really?
I
He's a
don't think
different
it's
guy.
the same guy.
Well, there was the Sleepy Hollow movie, but didn't it have like Johnny Depp or something?
That was Johnny
Yeah,
Depp
that's the Tim
and
Burton
Christina
one.
Ricci.
Oh yeah, that was bad. But Evan,
I
go.
get if I had to pick one, I feel like there's a couple animated ones. I didn't love the look of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and that turned out to be good.
I
Everyone was
agree
surprised
with
by
you.
that.
Yeah,
Everyone was surprised by that one, apparently.
that
I'm
movie kind
struggling
of
to come up
kicks
with
as a
others.
parent. Okay, I've got one for you. Gladiator 2.
I don't know if I saw a full trailer.
Wait, it
for
was
I
good?
still haven't seen
The first trailer is not good. The first trailer upset
Is
me.
the movie good? No. Movie is passable. But you have to keep in mind, I went into that movie with my bar so low because the original Gladiator, it hits. It's really, really good. And I was like, oh, Ridley, don't fuck this up. Don't fuck this up. And then we're watching the trailer. You've got Denzel Washington playing a black man with power in ancient Rome.
It's kind of wild, yeah.
Yeah. right? You're just like, what? Like, do I need to slap Ridley with a history book? But I was like, but if anybody can pull it off, it would probably be Denzel Washington. So, okay, I could be here for it. Then they had a dude ride into the Coliseum on a rhino, which literally had me in class saying to the students, I think we can all agree that they did not ride and train rhinos in the Coliseum. Did they flood it? Yes. Did they have rhinos? Yes. Did they have lions? Yes. But did they have a dude walk out on a rhino with his arm in the air like a freaking bucking bull and control said rhino with like a bit and halter like a horse? I think not. So what did I do? I went to go see it opening night in IMAX because there were 2 tickets. And I mean, let's be real, it had Pedro Pascal in it. So I literally texted my niece and I was like, yo, Paul Mescal is in it and she loves him. And I was like, and I have daddy vibes for Pedro Pascal. So let's go see this in IMAX. There are 2 center row center seats in IMAX, like the perfect place to see it. Somebody had clearly returned their tickets because it had been sold out. And we went to go see it. Denzel Washington, just hand the man the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in that film. He plays a character that I have never seen Denzel Washington play. So it's like when you have these old school actors who it's like, oh, he's not playing a character, he's playing Al Pacino. Al Pacino is playing Al Pacino again. Denzel, you'll have all the feels. You'll just be like, oh, holy shit. Oh, and like, when I say, like, I'm really good at picking up in a film what happens with a character. Like, it's really hard to twist me out of knowing what's going to happen just because I know what to look for editing wise and I kind of ruin it for myself. I genuinely, until like 3/4 of the way through that film, was like, is he good? Is he bad? What the fuck is happening? And I was kept looking at my niece and she's like, I don't know. Like, he switches back and forth so masterfully. The rhino scene was amazing. Stupid as fuck. But I was there for it, man. That guy rode out and it was so big and I was just like, I know this shit didn't happen, but I'm okay with it. Ridley, bravo for just feeding my Transformer 12-year-old boy heart. I believe Bumblebee is real. Like, I want to believe it. So I want to believe that people rode rhinos, though we have confirmed that they did not. It's a spectacle. The movie is not great, and there's literally only like one tie-in character from the original, but the performances are amazing, and the entire movie is worth going to see for Denzel, which is the exact reason why I was like, this is going to be the shittiest movie of all time. Like, I love Denzel Washington. I'll literally see anything he's in, but this was bad. This was a bad choice. And then I saw the movie and I went, oh no, this was such a good choice. Like, this was shockingly good, and it's because of Denzel. So, yeah. But I railed on that trailer for an entire class of just how bad it was.
As you should. It's a terrible trailer.
It's so bad, but the movie is worth going to see.
I have a better answer than my previous one for... I don't know if it's a bad trailer, but I did not like it when I first saw it. Into the Spider-Verse. Obviously, that movie's goated.
They're terrible.
That trailer for the first one. The second trailer, good.
I think the second one is shit, too.
Well, the trailer for the second movie. I don't know.
No, I think it's terrible. It does the exact same thing as the first one. But the thing is that it's more forgivable because we all know how good the first one is and then how good the second one is.
I was going to see that movie.
I didn't see that movie.
That trailer did not sell me on it.
I didn't see the first movie until it had already been in theaters for like a month and a half. And students just kept coming to me going, you've seen it. And I was like, I have not. Now where am I?
I saw it like week 4.
Yep. And then I went to go see it and I just sat in the theater and went, shit, I could have enjoyed this multiple times by now. Like, because it was so good, but the trailer just sucks.
Yeah, the trailers were not great for that.
It's not good. And the second one plays up on it as well. It doesn't give enough information for people who are not fans of that. Like, I had no idea what that movie was about. They don't explain it enough that I went into it with any confidence knowing what that film was about. And so it was a beautiful, pleasant surprise. But then I felt like with the second one, they were able to do the exact same thing, but it was more forgivable because we all understood, because we'd all seen the first one. But I didn't think the second trailer was any good either, though the movie was great.
The teaser for Across the Spider-Verse, I ostrich
And
mode.
that's the one I'm referring to.
No, the teaser, I don't know if I don't. It doesn't sound like the one that brought me to tears, which is the one with the monologue from his mom for Across the Spider-Verse.
No. It starts out with like the mom saying something to him, and she's like, I love you for who you are. It's like one of those like,
it's
they be
just
yourself.
Do her whole monologue.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Score.
That bugged me.
It got me.
Oh, it didn't do it for me. Though the movie, I lost my shit multiple times.
Yeah, I wish they'd had a better trailer for that first one. I think I've seen fan-made ones that are much better, but they kind of missed the marketing game on that.
They did. They really did.
Something that had the opposite effect on me recently was Trap. Like, the concept for that movie, it was the most recent M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Oh my god.
The concept for the movie was kind of cool, in my opinion, for the trailer. And I was like, okay, there's got to be more to it if he's going to reveal this twist in the trailer.
No, there doesn't need to be, because it's M. Night.
And I guess the twist was there were no more twists.
It's like in Glass, where the twist is that there's an entire fucking secret society that we have not mentioned in any of the movies ahead of time. And then all of a sudden it's like there's a pan shot of a tattoo and a symbol. And then all of a sudden there's another symbol. And then there's a whole truck with a symbol. And then there's all these people with these fucking symbols. And you're like, oh my God, is that the surprise? It is.
I definitely felt that with the Trap trailer as well. I was like, this feels like they're giving away the boink, as you said, Jocelyn.
Right? And they're
giving all the boinks. Yeah,
and there was no more boink.
Because M. Night doesn't see the boink. He doesn't ever, bless his heart, he does not know how to set up a story and follow through with it. He just sets up a story and then diverts, and he's like, surprise! I'm just telling you a different story. That's the surprise.
Yeah, he gets the sauce with
he doesn't know how to surprise you.
I wanted to run through my final bad trailer tropes, and then we'll get into the final question. The one other thing I wanted to bring up for the comedy trailers, I never noticed this until doing research for this episode. Maybe I just hadn't, because I've never back-to-backed so many of them. Early 2010s comedy trailers had a problem with stereotype-based jokes. I did not clock that when
because all the movies
they were first out. Yeah, I'm curious because I haven't seen any of them. I'm like, are they playing it up and it's not there? I think it must be. There's a concerning amount across just several of them.
Oh no, it was a vibe. It was a vibe before basically the Me Too, before the Me Too movement. And the kind of the beginning of that, and then all the stuff with COVID and social things being brought up, it was just a blatant, let's just rail on any ethnicity, minority, let's just be crazy sexist. The trailers aren't hyping that or hyping anything that wasn't there in the storylines themselves. The movies themselves were cliche.
Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes they're just really the really joke bad. Is just a stereotype. I almost picked Get Hard, the Kevin Hart, Will Ferrell movie. I still haven't seen the movie. That whole trailer is basically just stereotype jokes.
The entire movie is as well. Yeah,
I imagine it is, because it certainly appears that way from the trailer. The Heat was not the worst in that regard.
Well, and again, horror films were the same thing. They were all stereotypical. You had the token black character who was going to get killed. You had the ditzy blonde. They almost couldn't get out of their own way. It was oh, this worked a few times back, 40 years ago. Let's keep doing it. And let's not get smart about it. And then they started getting smart about it. And also people started calling them out and just going, yeah, that's been played. If you can't George Carlin it, if you can't Blazing Saddles it, if you can't Silver Streak it and do what, Mel Brooks, Richard Pryor, and Gene Wilder did, you don't get to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Because you are actually being a bigot. Yeah, no, most of them can't. It's very rare. Taika is one of the few filmmakers who I've seen pull it off, with things like Jojo Rabbit. he's walked that line of like, you're like, ooh, is he gonna cross it? Nope, he doesn't. Like he holds to it. But then I've also like he screwed the pooch and other stuff. So it's like it's a really hard format to be not stereotypical, but to make comment on the stereotypical. It's, you know, nobody really does it anymore.
Yeah, and I think like the early 2010s was just a bad time for that, I think. Like you said before, like there was better like consciousness in the industry about it. And I think it shows the most there. It also kind of shows itself in some drama trailers, I think. It's not as bad there. I have different issues with a lot of drama trailers, but it does come up sometimes. I also have an issue with this is my final gripe. So many drama trailers will include the one moment where somebody like breaks something or the one punch in the movie, and I'm just like, God damn it. Yep. Do we have to like your movie is not that dramatic. Why are you playing it up? And yep. All of them do it. It's like the one time someone punches
they
someone.
Also all have like
breaks
that.
A glass.
They also have the epic. And next person.
Yeah.
Everybody's just like turning their heads and looking at each other. And it's like, okay, so this is a movie where people look each other deeply in the eyes and throw shit. And then there's nothing thrown and nobody looks at each other. And that's why they're fighting and why it's a drama.
And maybe this can transition us into the last question, because my last question is, what do you want to see from trailers in the future? And I'm going to give a little bit of my answers first before I throw it to you guys. I think largely from the trailers we've picked, I think like big budget action movies have largely figured out how to be both unique and really good. I think we've brought a lot of the examples we've brought have done that. I think other genres, especially dramas and comedies, have a really hard time of selling themselves well and being unique. Like every 2010s comedy trailer that I found, they all feel exactly the same. Like they're playing the same tropes, the same beats. A lot of dramas do it too. And a lot of times they actually seem to steal the language of action movie trailers. They'll play up the physical comedy, or they'll play up the one punch. They'll do like the same escalating music things, which work great when you're making Infinity War. It doesn't work great when you're making Steve Jobs. I didn't go back and watch that trailer. You should not market Steve Jobs like Infinity War. And I feel like there's some dramas that are Steve Jobs that want to sell themselves like Infinity War. And I'd like to see, like, I think we figured it out with action trailers. I think A24 has a little bit. They're good about maybe giving us just like a vibe. But there's a lot of stuff that is really good in some cases, or at least decent, and just can't sell itself because it's trying to act like it's everything else instead of showcasing what's unique about it. I feel like there's so few good drama trailers for stuff.
There's a reason.
Okay, why?
So in the early 2010s, it was the birth of Netflix. It was the birth of streaming. It was the birth of being able to watch, 8 hours of YouTube. Back at that time, we had 15-second spots. We had 30-second spots. We also still went to the movie theater to watch a drama or comedy. Today, the only movies that play in theaters that really play and make money are action, a Wicked level musical that you really should see on a big screen because it's so big, action films, and tentpole movies like Avengers and Marvel and things like that. Really look at the movies that you went to go see in the last 2 years in the theater. Even if COVID hadn't happened, the things that we will pay $25 a ticket to go and see are big. They are usually, a lot of the time, action-packed or have like an element of an action film. And we want to see that on a big screen. A drama, I don't need to spend $25 to go see We Live in Time. It was a great flippin' movie, but I don't need to see it on a big screen. I can watch it on my iPad and get just as much out of it because it's just a drama. And it's the same thing. I'm going to laugh just as hard on my iPad or on my computer or my TV at home at a really good joke as I am in a theater. And in the economy today, no one can afford to go see movies the way that we used to, when we had $5 Tuesday at the Rave or the Cinemark on campus. we don't have that anymore. Now it's a guaranteed $20 just for your ticket. And so you're going to reserve that for the big things. And so that said, all of these movies are still being made to be played in theaters. Like they're still pitching this stuff. Even Apple TV and Netflix, they're showing movies like Red One, for instance. And Netflix knew it was a loss. They knew it was a guaranteed loss, but they still released it in theaters first because they want to try to capture a little bit of that audience that they're not, because they're not making the money on subscriptions that they thought they would. And so they're marketing dramas and comedies in the way that we market action, because action brings butts in the seats into theaters. Whereas action and comedy, comedy and dramas do not, because everybody can just wait for it to be on Netflix or wait for it to come to Apple TV or wait for it to be early release on Amazon. They're marketing that way and it doesn't work. So I agree with you. Like they need to just own what they are. But in order for them to own what they are, they have to then accept what they're going to be, which is an at-home movie. And that really people will only see theater movies.
Do you think maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, though? Because, like, I agree with the
It's completely
timeline.
Self-fulfilling.
The timeline you laid out makes sense, where, like, I think the like golden age of action movie trailers started in that early 2010s time, which is the rise of streaming.
It really
and
started
YouTube.
in 99, 97, 98 with The Matrix was the kicking off of it, was really playing those trailers, but they've mastered it in those early 2010s.
Yeah, I've felt the transition there. I'll lightly credit Inception. I think it was big on that. But what if other movies had taken a cue from the Social Network trailers that I think do a really good job of showcasing it? What if we had more stuff that accurately showed what the movie was? Granted, there's a great smashing something scene in the Social Network that they use.
But the Social Network came out at a time where people were still seeing dramas and comedies in the theater because they would never release it quickly on video. Netflix didn't have the DVD and nobody streamed the Social Network for months after. It took months for it to come out on a streaming service. So if you wanted to see it, you had to go see it in theaters. That is not the case anymore. Even Deadpool and Wolverine was screenable online within like 2.5 months of it being released in theaters, which is like unheard of, where it used to be 6 to 8 months before you had a chance to get it, you know, if you went back to Blockbuster days, to even get it at Blockbuster or to get it on DVD from Netflix. It's the last decade because of streaming. Streaming killed. It really did kill the theater for any genre that's not big.
I'd like to throw out a hypothetical, though, because I agree with where we're at right now. I agree with your assessment of how we got there. What if we had an alternate timeline where some drama in like 2012, 2013, like let's say Her, the Spike Jonze movie, had a really great marketing campaign, and somehow that small drama made like $200 million because it had a great trailer that showed us how to, like, what if we got a couple of those? I think the industry would be different if we had learned how to market comedies and dramas as well. I think it's possible.
It wouldn't have changed because streaming still exists. The only factor in that is that if you removed streaming, if the birth of streaming didn't happen, we would still be going to see Her in theaters. We would. We would not see Her in theaters today. Even with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson, it can have the best campaign. We don't go see The Social Network. As perfect as that trailer is, we do not go see The Social Network in theaters. It does not make enough money to recoup its costs. The missing factor here isn't that they don't know how to advertise these films. They know how to advertise the films. They just don't do it because they don't want to accept the fact that, and it hurts me to say this because I love the genre of drama. It's one of my favorite genres. I like everything except for horror, but I love dramas. I love feeling shitty at the end of a movie. I just do. And that said, I will not go spend that kind of money. No one can afford it. And whenever we're also spending all of this money on streaming, and I know that I just have to wait a month and a half and I'm good and I will have it and I will watch it and I will just be like, cool. You have to remove streaming and subscription services from the equation to bring that stuff back, or for it to have never happened at all. It really has nothing to do with how they cut the trailers. They're cutting the trailers in a self-preservation way, trying to keep it alive. But it is really what the studio did by making them into giant conglomerates and creating these streaming services that killed it. They could rock the shit out of those trailers. People are still not paying money to go see them in theaters.
I think you're unfortunately probably right about
it hurts. It hurts me to say that. Like, it kills me to say that, because like I agree with you. What I would want to see from the future of trailers is getting more people into theaters. Because like when I stood the line was out the door when I went to go see Gladiator. And I thought it was all because of Gladiator. I was like, wow, like Ridley Scott, man, he pulled it in. I didn't realize Wicked was being released the exact same night. And then I looked around, I'm like, wait, everybody's wearing green or fucking pink. Oh my God, that dumb musical is being released too. But the line was out the door and around the corner at the King of Prussia Theater. And it was people just waiting for popcorn. And I was like, it was infectious. I was like, oh my God, it's like Titanic 1997, waiting for the fourth time to see that movie. Like we were wrapped around the building to go see a movie that we had already seen 4 times. And it was a privilege to wait in line. I would love nothing more than to get that back. And there's nothing like watching a movie, comedy, drama, or whatever it may be, with a giant group of strangers. And everybody's crying at the same time. Everybody's laughing at the same time. Everybody's going, oh, this sucks at the exact same time. There is something beautiful about that. But unless literally the internet dies, which I would forego movie theaters for the rest of my life to not lose the internet. Unless the internet dies and streaming capability dies, where it's never going to go back to that.
Sorry. I agree. But I still hope that we can find a better way to advertise, like, because I think there's a chance we could bring stuff back, and trailers are going to be part of that. I hope somebody is trying to figure out how to market comedies and dramas well. Jelani and or Angel, I guess we'll go same order. What do you guys want to see from trailers in the future? Jelani, you can start.
Less plot, more shots, more action, more hype moments. I want moments I can replay that can be replayed over and over and over again. I think I watched the Endgame and Infinity War trailers twice to prep for this, twice over. I think I watched the Man of Steel one twice. I need just those little moments in every trailer where it's just like that. I can't wait to see that in theaters or whatever.
And it makes you want to watch it again.
Yeah.
Like every time I watch The Gangster's Paradise, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to Marvel and I'm going to start with the very first fucking Avenger movie. I'm going to watch it in chronological order, like in the order it was meant to be done in, not in the order it was made. And I'm going to do the whole freaking universe just so I can get to Chadwick Boseman walking across the field. Like it hypes you. So you're just like, oh, and then you're also watching the Gangster's Paradise music video and you're just like, God, all of this is amazing. You need those moments. I agree.
It also helps that some of those movies like Infinity War, Endgame, those were memorable experiences in the theaters as well. Like Endgame, God bless whatever is going to try to compete with that, because that was a literal sporting event in a movie theater.
Oh, I saw it at the rave, or the old rave on Penn campus, and I saw it with a bunch of students. We all were like, you guys want to go on a date and we'll all go see this together? And they were like, yes. And we took up like the front row, not the front row, but the front row of like where you walk in. And we were like, the entire movie, we had all watched the trailer 1,000 times, and we were all like literally holding hands. By the end of that movie, we were like, thank you, Marvel, for not fucking us. I love you 3,000. Like, we're gonna forgive you for all the times you have screwed us over because of this. And the trailer helped get us there. And yeah, it was a great way to go. And then of course everything after it, well, we can just forget that all happened. But yeah, it was a beautiful thing that was from the trailer.
So that's it.
All right, Angel, what do you hope for from the future of trailers?
Honestly, I'm pretty similar, but very large emphasis on less plot. Like, you can give away a little bit, just don't give away everything, please. Like, let me guess some stuff, focus on provocative imagery, a couple of fun performance highlights, some distinctive music, or, like, hyped up music. And honestly, after this conversation, I now have more of an appreciation for cutting in really good sound effects. Like, especially when it comes to action movie trailers and things like that. It hits when it's like, when it's cut together really well. Like Anxious Paradise, like what stood out for me was toward the end of that trailer, where they changed the Wakanda chant to line up better with the Gangster's Paradise music, because it sounds a little bit different in the movie, but they line it up better with the music in the trailer, and it works so well. Like, it keeps up with the pace it's been building for that entire thing.
And listen to the sound effects. Like, there's like not a few sound effects, and then all of a sudden there's like a metal on metal sound as somebody's like slashing with a wooden pole. They're not even holding like a metal knife. They've got a wooden pole, and you're just like, oh, did you just Quentin Tarantino me? Did you just have like a cannon go off for a gun? Oh, I'm in. And it's just like a little highlight thing, and you're just like, wait, are there knives? That looks like a wooden stick, and you're in. It just like fills it up, and it's just at very key points where they really want you to pay attention. And
and it's not overdoing it. It's not like, it's not overhydrating. It's just like giving you just enough. That's all I want.
My favorite for that one is when, I don't know if we can call it a shield, but whatever Cap's holding in that, when he does the and he goes, let's go.
Yes,
and then
it's like boom, boom, and you're just like, and then you've got him going, get this man a shield, and you're just like,
so good.
And I will say that trailer, not that it needs defense, but it was edited by a group of sound guys. They created it. It's a fan-made trailer, but they made it to highlight their sound mixing and Foley ability. And it totally got them jobs. It totally got them jobs in the industry because of it's so perfectly done. But the kicker is that the story is so good in the trailer that the sound doesn't even become like the main thing. It just becomes that supporting character that without it, you don't have an Oscar-winning movie. You have like that was okay, but they should have gotten better actors. That's how important sound is. When it's missing, it's bad. But when it's done just right, nobody notices it because it's just there and it's perfect in all that it is.
You described editing as an invisible art.
It's an invisible thing, yeah. It's like your audience should be able to feel that you were there. They should sense your comfort, your discomfort, like all of those things, but they should not feel like, oh, I've been led to water and now I'm being forced to drink, because humans in general, we don't like that. We want to be drinking because we've brought ourselves there. So yeah, you have to be invisible with it.
Well, I do feel like trailers are maybe not an exception to that, but I've heard it said that film is the director's medium, stage is the actor's medium, books are the writer's medium. I like to throw into that trailers are the editor's medium. I feel like it's kind of the place where
so
editors
are films and television and everything where we exist.
But I feel like
it's the director's medium. I'm like,
no, I've heard it. I'm taking that.
No, it's those are classic things that are said. Yeah,
but I feel like editors have more power in trailers. And like montages are like the parts where it's loudest, but trailers kind of are too, where you can be a little bit more flashy and have people notice, ooh, that was a good cut. A lot of times it can still be invisible, but I think there's a reason why you see so many fan-made trailers out there is because it's kind of an art form when you can divorce it from the marketing.
It's 100% an art form. And if you can do it well, there is nothing on the planet you can't edit. If you can edit a trailer well, and it's, I always have students that are like, well, I wish I didn't have to do a trailer project in intermediate. And I'm like, guess what, bitches? You're going to do it anyways, because if I can get you to do it even in a mediocre way, it's going to make you 100 times better as just like a scripted editor or a non-scripted editor. Like, if you can tell a 2.5 hour story in 2.5 minutes or less, that is the elevator pitch. That is the story pitch. That is how you get funded. And if you fail at it, you don't get funded, just like you don't get butts and seats. So it's like, if you can master that form of storytelling, that you know it that well, it's that deep, and you can convey that story, whatever that story may be, you will be a successful editor. It really does come down to just being able to tell a story quickly, efficiently, and effectively.
Yeah, I mean, I got my first job from the trailer I edited in intermediate. So
everybody does. Yeah,
like,
everybody gets jobs. Like, all the editors use the trailers that they cut in class on their reel, and it's often the quickest way to just show what is your ability as an editor. And most producers know, like, okay, just because you can cut doesn't mean you can maintain a story, but it gets you in the door, and often is the thing that gets you the job. You don't get a job from showing your senior project. You just don't, because nobody really wants to watch that. But showing a very effective trailer, it shows that you know how to tell a story, and you know the technical at the same time.
Yeah, I'll throw the question to you, Jocelyn, but I think you've answered a lot of it. What do you want to see from trailers in the future?
Less of them. I think just because there's so much to watch. I definitely watch less trailers today because there's so many to choose from. I just get overwhelmed. And, you know, being somebody who is inherently ADHD, I'm like, I start on one, and then it's like 3 hours later, I have doom scrolled my way into every trailer that's been released in the last month. And I hate it. I really do. I miss the days where we were waiting for a trailer. It was like, hey, that movie's coming out, and you were just like checking every day. The fact that we don't have to check every day, we can just easily access everything. Like, I would love for trailers to stop being on YouTube.
I wouldn't mind that either.
If you want to try to fix the theater situation, there are no more trailers on YouTube. You have to go to a theater to see what's coming out next.
They kind of tried that with Avatar too. I think they had like a week where you couldn't see it online. You could only see it before Doctor Strange 2, which Jelani will remember got me to bring him to the theater.
Well, and you know what? Like, when I took my daughter to see Moana 2, and we saw it on Tuesday night. It wasn't actually released until Thursday, but there were these early screenings. So we went to go see it. And there was the teaser for Lilo and Stitch. And it is phenomenal. It is 30 seconds, and it's like a sand castle, but it's a Disney castle. And you're just like, sand? Disney? And then you just got Stitch going, "Arr!" And he's just stomping the shit out of everything, because that's what Stitch does. He's like an unruly puppy. And I was like, I am so fucking in. But the Moana movie, those early screenings, was the only place you could see it. It didn't show up online until the next day. And I was just like, it was a satisfying as fuck trailer. It just works. And it's just like, okay, especially after the How to Train Your Dragon live action, I was just like, I needed this. Thank you for restoring my faith in this genre of film. And at the same time, I knew I had just seen something that no one else had seen. Because, like, I went home after seeing the movie and I looked up Lilo and Stitch live action, and it wasn't even online. You couldn't see it on YouTube yet. And I was just like, okay, I am so hyped for this movie now. There's a part of me that would love to not see the trailers anymore unless you have honored the studio with going to the theater, and that's where you get to see it. Because then you also don't know what you're getting into. And it's like, it's why, like, the Into Darkness trailer, I love it so much, because when it came out, you weren't seeing it on YouTube. You weren't looking up Star Trek Into Darkness teaser. You were sitting in the theater, and it kicked in, and you have those first 3 shots, and you're like, futuristic city, long hall. Oh, it's the chair. Oh, it's the trailer. And you like got excited because you had been waiting for that freaking sequel to come out. And you were just like, how are they going to outdo the first one? And then it showed up, and you couldn't just go and search it. You had to be in that magical place where you were surprised by it. Where now you just look it up and you know what you're watching, and it's not as fun.
It really is.
That's it. It's something that will never happen, because then the studio would take an even bigger hit, because then nobody would know that anything is coming out, because nobody goes to the theater. And if they can't, if there's no way to advertise it, what little viewership we have would go down even more. But I miss that. I miss the surprise of seeing that trailer going to the theater, sitting in the dark for 25 minutes. It's almost the best part of the movie was sitting and watching what was coming next.
I still love it, even if
That's
it's
what
a
I
cheaper
I still
experience
love it,
now, I still
but
love it.
it never. It's so rare that you get that true surprise.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I was in a theater and saw a trailer that I hadn't seen already and was like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
take my money, please."
Yeah.
I can't. I think maybe
Le-
Everything Everywhere might have been the last trailer that did that for me, and even that wasn't like quite as strong. I remember that. I love that movie. I don't remember the trailer having a super strong effect on me. It was
It
like
wasn't. It
it was
wasn't
another one
great.
that was like intriguing. I was like, "Oh, okay, I want to know more. I'll
Yeah.
look into it." But yeah, I
Yeah,
miss.
honestly, Lilo and Stitch is the last one I can honestly, and it just happened, that I can honestly say I was like, fuck, yes. Like, that's so good that nobody has seen this. That's what I miss. That's what I would love to see happen, is that we get more surprise. Because that's also what made so many of those trailers successful, is that, you were there. You can't get up and walk away. You can't switch to the next video. You're sitting in a theater. You have to sit through it, and it made trailers a lot more magical and exclusive than they are now. Now they're everyone, and it's posted on 400 million channels on YouTube. It's not even like coming from Disney on their channel. It's coming from Disney and every freaking crony that's ripped it off and put it up.
And they have the
So
5 second trailer for the trailer. I hate that
the
so
five
much.
seconds, the 5 seconds of the trailer before the trailer, and it's often for
It's
the trailer
so
itself.
bad.
It's not even for another trailer. It's for that trailer, and you're just like,
New
oh,
trailer
sweet.
starts now.
I hate it so much. I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, "This is the worst thing to happen."
Well,
ever.
there
And
was
then
an
it's still here.
it's escaping me what movie it was, but I brought it up in class at one point. They actually made a trailer for the trailer release. It was like in 3 days, and it was
I've
for a
seen
big
those
Marvel
too,
film.
yeah.
I've
It was
seen
like
those
in
for big
3
stuff.
days.
Oh, yeah.
The trailer for such and such, and they give you a couple of
Drops
shots, and
tomorrow.
they were like 30 to 45 second trailers, and I'm like, is that a trailer for a fucking trailer? What the hell? And it's like, it takes away the novelty of it. So that's what I would like.
But
back.
in some cases, the trailer is an event. Like if the thing's big enough, No Way Home,
Mm-hmm.
those trailers were an event.
Yeah,
Those were ones that got hyped up.
yeah.
Worked.
But seeing them in a dark theater where you have a captive audience, even better. Like it's like, it's like watching your favorite sports team on TV, and you're like, yeah, and then you go to the stadium, and you're like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like it's a different vibe, and yeah, we don't have that anymore. We just don't.
I think it would take a very long and very concerted effort to bring that back, and I don't see it happening, at least not for a
won't.
long time.
It's all about money, and it would not be a money making scheme. So
I guess I gave a lot of my answers at the top of this question, but I'd like them to be a little bit shorter. I think some 1 minute trailers instead of 2.5s might be a good direction to move in. Give us less, tease us more. I'd like to see stuff that like is marketing without using footage from the real movie. There's a Deadpool 2 trailer that I almost had as one of my examples, where it just shows a scene that, and it telegraphs to you, this is not going to be in the original or in the final movie. He just like gets changed in a telephone booth.
Oh yeah.
And has like as a dude gets stabbed off screen and you hear it. And it's kind of great because it's too bad that Deadpool's probably the only thing that can get away with that. And then the trailer ends with like a book report written in Deadpool's voice about the old man of the sea, because why the fuck not? It's Deadpool. Let's just do it.
It's such a rare thing that you have a fourth wall being broken so extensively and well done that they can get away with poking fun at themselves to titillate the senses.
I wish other stuff could do it though, because it still advertises that movie really well and gives you nothing. I really wish we could find that for other things. Old Lilo and Stitch, the animated trailers, kind of did something similar where they would put, I remember seeing these on some VHSs I had as a kid. They would like put Stitch in scenes from Aladdin and Little Mermaid.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. That it's one of the funniest things is when they were inserting him into classic Disney movies. Brilliant. And he's just wreaking hell. And it's just like, That's why we go see him. Like it's it's playing to that character.
Yeah.
No, those are great.
I don't know how you do that for like an R-rated adult drama though.
No, you
You
don't.
can't do that for
You really don't.
Challengers. You can't do
No,
that for Civil War.
there's maybe 5 movies in the world that you can, like, movies or storylines or characters, you can get away with that.
Yeah. It's too bad. But I think that might be a great way I think that's a great direction comedies could go. Dramas probably not. But comedies like Barbie absolutely could have done that. I don't know that they did. Barbie could have.
No, and I agree. Yeah, Barbie is one that I almost feel like if the trailers had made fun of themselves more and said, "Yes, we are a Barbie movie. Laugh with us." And done the Deadpool thing, I would have loved that because I'm such an anti-Barbie person.
I agree that it might have been better from our perspective, but does Barbie make $1.5 billion if you advertise it like Deadpool?
That movie makes $1.5 billion no matter what. Because it got me, somebody who, like, I vehemently hate Barbie. I hate everything Barbie stands for. As a woman, I cannot stand freaking Barbie. And then I saw that movie and I was like, oh my God, I love Barbie. I love everything it was created for. I love everything it dreams to be. Like, it changed. I, again, can count on one hand the number of times I've been so deeply moved. I've changed my opinion on something, especially something cultural like Barbie. And that movie, it was, when they took all the pink paint in Los Angeles, they knew it's okay because we're Barbie and we're going to make $1 billion. The network knew, at the very least. Like, Greta Gerwig might not have known. The actors might not have known how big it was going to be. The skeptics like myself who were like, come on, it's a fucking Barbie movie. Seriously. We didn't know, but the network, the bean counters, they knew. They knew how much money that movie was going to make, and they just didn't care. They knew that they could do anything they wanted. But that movie is $1.5 billion movie no matter what.
I would argue you need as good of a marketing campaign as it had. But I think they could have gotten more creative.
Not with streaming and YouTube, not anymore. All you have to do is show a pink box, and you've already got $500 million in fans right there. And then you only need a few more to get you to the $1 billion mark because those fans are going to see it 2 or 3 times. So
I think there's definitely a good argument to be made for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that gets us to the end of my questions. This has been a very, very long episode. Did you guys want to close with anything?
No, other than I teach 3-hour classes once a week. So this is just a walk in the park for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They are long.
This is nothing. Yeah,
classes.
no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on as a guest. I have
No
wanted
problem.
to do this episode for a while. I'm glad we finally got it together. Our upcoming episodes are going to be Interstellar, Sunshine, and Tell Me Lies Season 2. Not sure exactly the order we're going to do that, but those will all be coming in probably the next month. We've got our Patreon. The Tangents episode is coming up. I'm sure we got some good ones from today to throw in there that you guys won't have heard, but they'll be up on the Patreon probably by like February. Got our YouTube channel with video essays. I've been cooking one up recently. We've got our Discord, which is free to join. You can let us know what trailers you like. Let us know that anywhere, either Spotify, we're on Instagram and Blue Sky at INT Analysis Pod. Let us know some of your favorite and least favorite trailers. We can cover them in some follow-up. I'm on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd at Ev_Wes. Where are you guys at? Jocelyn, we'll end with you. Jelani and Angel, you guys can go.
I'm on Instagram at Jelani T. Kelly. YouTube, Jelani T. Kelly. Actors Access, Jelani T. Kelly, in case anybody wants to hire me.
I'm on Instagram at AngelsArc15. I'm also on Letterboxd at Serenity Cinema. Like Evan said, we're all on INT Analysis Pod on Instagram. So yeah, follow us there.
Also, Blue Sky is a new one. I don't know if people know that. This is only the second episode.
I only just heard of Blue Sky like when you mentioned it the other day.
Yeah, we're there. It's new. It's slightly better Twitter if you haven't heard of it. Jocelyn, where can people find you?
I'm old, so you can find me on Facebook. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, you can, but I'm on Instagram. I'm only on Instagram, and it's at Storyteller, which is STORITELR. That is the 14-year-old spelling of Storyteller. I was literally 14. I was 14 whenever I locked in that Yahoo email address. And yeah, you really should only go there if you want to see a lot of very fun photos and videos of my 6-year-old, because I don't really post anything else.
You post some snowboarding, I feel like.
I do. I post some snowboarding stuff, and I've actually been reposting. I'll give a little shout out to the Drexel Cinema and Television social media team, which is actually a senior and a junior who we basically just said, please take over this account, like, and do something with it. Entertaining as fuck is like the shit that they put up. Like this, it's all like film student related memes and stuff like that. So I've been posting a lot, like reposting a lot of their stuff. They definitely get a lot of like editing digs and cinematography digs and digs at professors, and it's really funny. Yeah, you can also find me at Drexel Cinema Television at Instagram. So
all right, great. Thanks for coming on, and thank you guys for listening. If you made it all the way to the end, I don't know how long this will be once I edit it down, but I'm sure it'll be a hefty one. But very good discussion. I'm glad we finally got this in.
Yeah.
So see you guys
Thanks
next time.
for inviting me. All right. Later.